So we're going to have to do some slightly different colors here on this. I thought maybe we'll just figure out some kind of freehand on the back here. I think something maybe a little more subtle. But we also have some, looks more like black and steel armor on this. That could be very fun too. Now I do want to show you, and I'll bring these up other times here. So this is a different version of Brienne that I painted. This was, oh my gosh, I think she was maybe in the Neutral Heroes box. I think this one, maybe in the last new, yeah. So I think the hair is a little bit different. You can see the robe and cloak was different, and the armor was definitely, I don't want to say it was the shiny type of armor, but definitely closer more to the Sky Earth than, say, what we're looking at with this one here. We've got the, back to the Reaper clear and liner paints this time. So liner paints, stuff like brown liner, sepia liner, red liner, blue liner, keeping it pretty simple here. We're also going to go with some of our clears. Clear red, clear blue, purple, orange, yellow, nothing fancy. Over here on this side we've got our liner paints, and then along here we've got some of those clears. We also have our two off-whites over here. Hey, thank you for the test, Armored Wolf. Yeah, I didn't get to do the usual, what would you say, the little Facebook thing that says, hey, I'm going live. I just kind of had to go live this time. Usual Reaper off-whites. I do have some faded ultramarine out there. We have some sponges that have been chopped up here. Now I am going to go through my lights here. I'm going to actually maybe even turn down my camera just a bit more. A couple degrees more. And then once we get some paint on this, then we're going to crank that back up again. We are also going to do the same sort of basing, because these are all supposed to be part of the same army. So we'll do the same thing there. We did it on the previous, I think it was a couple streams ago, where we painted, what was it, I guess this is the, what is it, the Red Lady or whatever, and I've already forgotten what her name is. I've got some other characters that we'll work on too, given the time. I think we'll especially focus on these two guys because I've got references up on the screen, so we'll do that too. And this begins in the usual way, just using water here. That's all this is. We've got our little bit of blue liner, a little bit of brown liner, maybe even a touch of clear blue in there. And we're just going to stomp right over this whole thing. Down and dirty, messy. It's really no different than the oil painting stuff. The difference is it's going to dry faster, obviously. Other than that, I really don't do that much different. People, they'll say, well, you paint a vehicle different, right? You do this different, right? And I'll say, no, I really don't. Really just kind of do them the same way. Now, speaking of drying, this will really, really dry faster. So whereas doing this with the oils and having at least an entire live session worth of working time, that's not going to happen here. This is also going to be interesting because she's essentially got, well, black and steel armor on a blue-black marble floor. So we'll see what we can generate contrast-wise in terms of color there. Sponge time, we get in here. We get in here and we pull some of this away. It's Chromius. How are you doing? Thanks for dropping in. Yeah, sorry I didn't give a whole lot of notification for this. The way the weather has been here lately, I basically sort of stream when it's safe. That's about the best I can say for it. So sorry there wasn't a whole lot of advance warning. I will be trying to do another stream, probably maybe this time again on Sunday night. Again, it all depends on weather. I would like to do another stream on Monday, maybe during the day, so that, and like during the day for me, not during the day for those in, say, Australia or in Europe. Now you can see the difference right away. Again, hey, we got Techno Cat in the house. Give Techno Cat definitely a follow. Oh, and give Wicked Elf also a follow there, because he is the purveyor of all things vellum, and that would be this vellum foliage here that we were painting on a previous session from a while back. Yeah, well, I'm hoping it would maybe start between 1 or something like that, 1 and 2 in the afternoon, my time. That would be Central Time. Look at this, she has like freckles here. Oh, she still has the blonde hair. Okay. But this cloak looks purple, but yet it says the blue. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens with this. Let's just start playing around, and we'll see what happens. So we got clear blue. Well, let's use that. Let's start playing with that. I'm going to actually mix a little bit of that faded ultramarine. You can see how we have not cleaned the brush at all. Trying to keep some of that in there. And then we're gonna, yeah, let's grab a little more of that blue liner for right now. We're just gonna let all that stuff, we're gonna let that mix. We're gonna let that reflect on the armor too. Now this, I had to call it something, right? Because everything's got to have a name. And I ended up just referring to it as the shaded base coat technique. Because there's shading on it, but yet to me it's just a base coat. So if you're wondering why it gets that crazy name, well, now you know why. So what we're going to focus on here with the cloak is we'll try and give this that bluish color, right? Oh, I'll just get that back there too. And there. But then when it comes to your armor, we're going to take more of a blue liner over here. And we're going to hit it with actually some of that maiden flesh. That's just, again, it's off-white. Just an off-white. And that's going to give us a bit of a, see, a little bit of a twist to that bluish gray. Whereas we've got some kind of high chromy stuff going on here. Let's see, how about the Wappel method? Well, we've got Wappel o'clock. I guess the shaded base coat thing has been around for so many years, I'm kind of stuck with, but most people kind of call it that anyways. There's also, well, the Wappel basing, there's that too. And see, look at this. I'm just letting some of that initial wash, glaze, whatever you want to call it. We're just letting that mix in. It's almost like it's oils. And this would be why I say every time, and it happens every time, it's Drax. Speaking of another follow, you should definitely go follow Drax. He can do his own shout out actually if he wants. Feel free to do your own shout outs if you want, because I have no Stream Deck, at least for the time being, and no chatbot, so you can be your own chatbot. Now that's interesting. BYOCB. Huh, there you go. Be your own chatbot. Now, we've got, it's a good time to show so we got our number 8 rounds, yeah. And as you can see, this one's had seen some action, right? Well, that one makes a really nifty filbert brush. This one a wee bit newer, not quite so beat up. Let's get a little bit of water into those bristles and poof, there you go. Hey, it's Ren. How are you doing? I like the Wappelius Magic Paint Hour, but is that not every hour? Well, it kind of is, because I'm pretty much painting 24 hours a day. At least it feels that way. But look at that. This is why it's the Swiss Army knife for brushes, baby. Look at that. 2 completely different brushes, and yet there's more, because we can do this, or we can do this, or we can even do something like that. And that's a beat up 25-cent brush. Beef in the hole is here. Let's see, so what am I painting tonight? I am painting pick a card, any card. So we got some more of the Baratheon heroes. It's all commission figs here, and we're trying to get through some more. We're for sure going to focus on these 3, especially since I got their reference pictures sitting down in the corners. But we're going to do this Brienne here, the Wappling hour. Like I said, I think every hour should be. So this is the Brienne from the, what the heck is it? The Neutral Heroes box. I think this is my favorite of the Briennes. I have a 3rd Brienne somewhere too. And you can see here, so this one, I don't know, maybe they called her Brienne the Teal, but the one I'm painting now is Brienne the Blue. So this is what we did on this Brienne. This one's not going to be getting the snow effects either. So even though that shows up as purple there, she's got actually blackened steel armor this time right here. And we'll see what we can do playing around with this. So we're already getting into our blackened steel. We've been working on our shaded base coat, aka the Wappel method, during the Wappel hour. I mean, I'm just thinking, hey, I was already turned down as Grand High Exalted Mystic Ruler of the Universe for some reason. Not quite sure why. I really don't settle for what are those provincial positions like, I don't know, Galactic Overlord. I mean, that's a good start, but I'm really, we have our sights set a little bit higher. I also got to get familiar with what's going on with this armor, and there's no better way to do it than to just kind of be taking my old filbert brush here and quite literally just searching out, okay, where should lights go? Oh, wait a minute. Do I have one of these things? I think I just got myself a new supply of these guys. Hopefully I still got one here in my pocket. Aha! So these little flashlight thingies here. This comes in, what, green, red, and blue. But, you know, if you're looking for a quick little light source type thingy do here, that is another way of doing it. Something like that. Yeah, let's get back to our searching for lights and dark, and just searching for shapes at this point. Look, it's still wet down here. I can still mix and do lots of fun stuff. And the idea is that in a matter of a few minutes, you should have a decent little bit of shape in here. Look at this. We're just kind of, we're almost cross-hatching right here. This is almost a little more old school shaded base coat. I don't remember what the heck got me onto the kind of going back to the 2013 style, but this might be closer to the 2013 version than say the 2020 version. And I get this also goes into that's cloak right there. Okay, this is what I mean. Where we're just, what do they call it? An exploratory committee. We're exploring what colors we need where, what values we need where. I see, okay, we've got some sort of probably leatherish pants or something like that going there. We'll deal with that too. And we're just going to keep working with what we've got here. We can always do some more, but we're going from the middle out. So we're going from the middle to lighter. Then we can do some glazing, some tinting, and then we go back the other way. And again, everything I'm using, just water, nothing else. Let's start to think about a little bit of skyish blue here on the sword. As you do, real quick, like, oh, I also have some of the horsies here. So any little things, I just want to also show that, yes, you can paint acrylics over oil. So these were painted in oils. And I just want to show that, you know, you can. Oh, what the heck? Let's just do that right now. You know, if I want to, I can go in here. Look at that. That's very watery. Painted that right over oils. I can even just kind of blend it a little bit. Anything I could do with acrylics, once the oils are dry, I can still do that. Now this was my last Twitch session. This is where we were using the brand new colors. Now let's see. I haven't touched him yet. Let's see if he's dry. He is most definitely dry. So again, you're looking at less than 36 hours ago. This thing was untouchable. It was wet, and yet oils all dry. And it wasn't MIG ammo oil brushes, which are designed to dry faster, which they do. These are my own right here. My own oil paints. So yeah, now we got some of the rich color from the, oh, I love that brown matter. That is a new favorite color of mine. Absolutely love it. It is like the faded ultramarine of brown. How's that? So let's put that aside here. Where did Brienne go? There she is. Let's start to fool around with that cloak there. What's Brienne the Blue? Let's start making her blue. At least on the cloak side of things here. Let's start to get this not just lighter. Also change in that color a little bit. But again, look at that big old wide brush. Lets me do nice sweeping things. So Drex, actually, speaking of oil paints, were you able to continue on that Mear's Dragon there with your oils? Because I don't think you didn't stream the last couple of nights, did you? But that was looking really neat. It looked like you were having some fun with the oils there. All right, I think that's the only place where the cloak is on the. Wait, no, do that too. So let's just keep on. Look at this. It's almost like it's oils, right? Now we're restricted into just kind of this one area here. Drex has been resetting his sleep. Aha. Well, that's something that we had to do with every convention. Was basically, but I always called it stay-at-home jet lag because it was quite literally like I flew from Australia or the UK to here. It's that brutal when I have to get up at some of these, to me, this ungodly time of 8 or 9 or something like that. Of course, as it is, I will most likely be going to sleep, if I get to go to sleep, with the sun not just starting to rise, but the sun sort of already risen, which is a cruel thing, and which kills me because it's with the weather being like it has been, it's not like we have to see the sun during the day anyways. So really? Oh, building a 40 solar auxiliary right now. That that sounds pretty involved. That sounds involved. Look at this. Is this not the same kind of thing that we were doing on this guy less than 2 days ago? Now this hasn't gotten the anti-shine on it. Let's see. Ren says it become a cranky jet lag. Yeah, it's it definitely is not fun. Oh, here we go. Look at this. So now this is one that we put the static grass on there. We did the thing with the thing, right? We put the Army Painter anti-shine over the top of this. I think I might have painted a few other little things in there, whatever. But that's the first one that's completely done. And man, did I have fun with the basing too. And here we'll stick him on the movement tray and poof, there you go. That's how he rolls, baby. Right there. Let's continue on with our blue here. I just wanted to give this a few seconds. See how that's already starting to dry just a bit there. But we can still play with that. Here, let's feather this out. So here, let's just take some of the paint away. Almost like it's oils. I think now you know why I do that stuff with the oils, because, well, I kind of already started doing it with the acrylics anyways. I really, substituting white spirits for water. And actually, I do have some more kind of comparisons with the white spirits to other things. So the white spirits versus paint thinners. The white spirits are more like using a flow improver versus water or something like that. Just think of it as a more gentle medium. And a big old brush, huge for some folks. For me, kind of a normal size, not a big deal. Not a big deal at all. But you can tell this starts to build a little bit, but we're able to do some of that wet blending there. There's about some more right on this fold here. I always have to remember if you're going to put highlights on a cape, you darn well better make sure they're on the top of the cape, and don't lighten the bottom of the cape to the same degree, because that's what we used to do back in the day, which was kind of easy to have happen when you're doing the whole black primer thing and layering up and all that other kind of stuff. Yeah, that happened to us all the time. It's like, wow, whatever that is on the bottom of his feet is kind of highlighted to the same degree as the top of his head. Wonder how that happened. So I'm using that maiden flesh off-white here as we just continue to take Mr. Big Old Brush here and just have some fun with it. We are also going to throw some, I want to try a little different type of freehand here. We've been doing a little bit like here we did the black over yellow, and we've done freehand like that. I want to do actually golds on here. I'm thinking of actually something that looks, well, you just have to kind of see it when it happens. But yeah, we're just gonna look. We're gonna take some of that paint out of there, and we're just gonna feather that. So some of those same oil painting. Now you know why I guess that the oils aren't so weird for me, because I kind of do the same thing. Oh, let's see. So the dragon went great. Still learning the consistency. That's going to be the case for a while. And as you start to sort of incorporate new colors, that'll keep on happening. Like that brown matter, I had to learn that color paint. I think with acrylics you just use the colors and whatever, but with oils you kind of have to learn each paint. Yeah, I just have to. It's almost like, I don't know, a new instrument or something like that. And one guitar is made of this, and another guitar is made of that, and they're both guitars, but they have different properties. And a little bit like Sculpey. Speaking of, oh yeah, I think I posted the sculpting video today. Here, let's get that fold there a little bit lighter, and let's do one more round here of our, I guess you could say it's almost like a bit of a stippling kind of a thing here. Heck, this sort of a stippling thing might even give the cloak that, oh, what is it, the stitched texture, or that kind of texture that everybody's looking for. Oh, I forgot to ask Wicked Elf how the giant bust is going. The one with the crystals that are coming out of her back. So hopefully that one's still been fun. And hopefully you've had a chance to maybe paint that on your streams. So there we go. With that starting to dry, I can start to, and yes, I'm starting to take that same blue, starting to put it into some of the armor here. Getting just sort of feeling my way through this here. I can't really tell if she's wearing a glove or not. Well, we'll just kind of see how that plays out. Let's start to think about some lighter stuff on the sword blade here. Want to distinguish that from the black and steel stuff as soon as possible.
Hello, little hobbit. Spark my ganja.
We got Gorgo the Lugubrious. We'll go with Gorgo. Thank you so much for the follow. It is Gandalf approved, obviously. We're going to be here for a while. We're going to be painting a bunch of Baratheons, possibly even a little bit on those Targs over there. I like to have a bunch of different things out on the table all at once, because you know me, I like to do those spot demos, especially like that movement tray that I showed you that had we did the weathering powders, rubbing alcohol, because someone asked. I said, oh, that sounds like a capital idea. Let's do that. Now, speaking of doing that, let's get some blue here. I'm just going to say that this needs some blue here, and we're just going to... Now, this is where the more pristine brush comes in. And, oh, Drax, I know we were talking, had the conversation about holding the brush, and definitely I mean, it's cradling the brush. I mean, I have seen people do. I've even seen people holding the brush like this. I am not kidding you. Now, in art school, that was quite literally beaten out of you right away, and the beatings continued until that behavior ceased. There we go. Just like any ship, the beatings will continue until morale improves. All right, let's get a touch of this into our cloak there. Now let's think about what's got to be on the opposite side of this. I'm still going to go with, I still love to have my purple on my sword blades, because if Nestor was around, he'd say that it ain't metal until it's got purple on it. So we're going to do that. We're also going to put it, well, on the rest of this metal too. A lot of people seem to hold right near the end. It is bizarre, because when you're like this, you can't do, especially with any kind of freehand stuff I want to do. That's just not going to happen if you got that death grip on the brush. You just have to kind of let it do some of its own thing there. Let's see what we can do here on the blood channel. We got the other side now. What is it that we want to have some reflected light in here, and then we're also going to go back in. Like I said, we're going to go back in with some of those darker colors too. This is what that shaded base coat's all about. Let's get some skin tones on this. Skin tones, whatever. Orange in there. We got our red, and we'll get some yellow into that. Blammo. I'm going to look at the card. It does not tell me if she's got gloves on or not. And I'm already seeing the first reflected color we've got to put on here, which is going to be on the shoulder there. You're going to have to, in some way, reflect that skin color there, because it's right next to the armor. Oh, let's get something for the hair, just to have something there instead of nothing. We got to have that all, that primer's got to be all gone, and then we got to get some yellow in here to get a start on our golds, which means orange is going to make an appearance here, as it does. Not quite sure what we might want to do. Let's see, what do we have here for the pauldron? That is also, yep, no gold there either. So we're going to limit that then to the sword. Limit it to the sword and to the buckle there, because why not? Why not? Now we got the clear yellow here. While that's still wet, going to do a bit of blending just like we did with that cloak. It's kind of like oils, just they're going to dry a whole bunch faster. I put some paint on there, and then I started pushing it around. I do the same thing. I just put that paint there, pushing it around. Now, I don't know if it's because I've been working so much with oils lately that it's just on my brain, and I'm just instinctively doing that. Not quite sure, but I do find it entertaining. We got that right here. Let's start to pop some lighter skin tones in here. A little more yellow and red. And she has a pretty light skin tone overall, I would say. Well, I think on this sculpt they actually gave her bags under the eyes, which is interesting. Maybe that's why there's freckles, I don't know. The funny thing is that in all reality, she should actually have 5 o'clock shadow, because, well, black and steel armor right next to her face. If she was wearing like a black hoodie or black sweatshirt or something like that, that would also show, it would read as essentially kind of 5 o'clock shadow because you are what you wear. If you're wearing a lime green shirt or something like that, guess what your face looks like? If you're wearing a bright pink shirt, you look like a dreamsicle or something. So always be careful what you're wearing. At least, if, me, I've long since ceased to care. Pride and shame, you reach a point in your life where those two things are alien concepts. And those long faded into nothingness for me. And yes, we're just painting little tiny eyes here with the end of a craft brush, because we can do that. And you can too. Let's get some of this maggot white here. Poof. Oh, we'll do it over on this side of our sword blade, yeah. I mean, you can see non-metallic metal, it's like really super hard. You have to think so hard. It tells you where the color's got to go. It really does. I keep saying that over and over again, and people think it's like a broken record or something, but it's the truth. It is definitely the truth. And you can see we start to bring out some of these, start to bring out some of those lights. What I wish I had done actually is to have a couple of pictures of the mountain, because that's the Gregor, especially the Gregor Clegane, the alternate Gregor. That was one that really was nifty with the blackened steel armor. I actually do have a YouTube tutorial on, I have a couple YouTube tutorials on blackened steel. I got at least one tutorial on the mountain that rides. Here, let's give that a little bit of a little more blue there. I can see we're starting to. Here, let's get a little more of our faded ultramarine here. Let's think about some more things that are gonna be maybe, purple down here. Something along these lines. Let's get some. We're gonna have to do some reflected light over here. There's gonna have to be reflected light back here. Now, of course, with the song figures, it's so neat that they are one piece, right? No assembly basically required. However, that does mean a few things, like mold lines in weird places. Now here, we gotta definitely get some reflections back here too. Something lighter. How's about on this side of the arm? We also have to get some, kind of get some reflected light on this sword. Gotta do it. And it's gonna be over here-ish. Gonna use my finger to just sort of blend that out. So that's more of our lighter portion of sword blade, but then we're going to take some of this brown liner here. Get the underside of that. Again, I can use my finger to blend it. Oh, almost like it's oils. And I just kind of made this into that filbert brush again, so I had a nice long, narrow channel to work with. We got some red liner that is going to serve as, I think, some of our leather straps and such here. Let's do that before we forget. See, I didn't care that I was painting that, basically painting over it with the metal colors. Didn't care, because I knew I was going to be coming back like this. I guess you just have to be willing to, now I say this all the time, you have to be willing to put up with those initial ugly stages where it's just going to look, it's going to look like nothing whatsoever. You don't get quite that immediate gratification of, oh look, I painted the Space Marine's head perfectly.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
Hey, Yoda Good Cell, how is it going? Thank you so much for the follow. It's appreciated. It is definitely appreciated. Here,
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
yeah, we got Musakos. Thank you also for the follow. It's appreciated. Now as we can start to bring out, and this again with the big old brush here. Got some of that blue liner, right? Now we're starting to, this is where we start to get into more of maybe the shinies here. There's a highly technical paint term for you. Speaking of which, I try not to toss those around too much like manhole covers because for some folks, they're just like, what the heck are you talking about? So I try to just kind of come up with more real world terms for them, but sometimes you just got to go with the actual thing that it's called, and then you just sort of just try to explain it. Say, look, this is what it really is. Fancy name, simple idea. Now we also need to, right in here, we got to get that darker in there too. We also have to get the bottom of that sword blade, boom, like so. Now we also have to start thinking about our base. We want to do some of that freehandy type stuff. Oh, like that. Which means I'm going to try and hold these two so you can see them both, which looks like you can now. Oh, redeemed highlight message. Musak is from Turkey. Well, hello and greet now. Actually, what would be a Turkish greeting? I don't know if it's possible to do the phonetic spelling of that, but I'm wondering now if Twitch can make it easier for me to have like a cheat sheet of greetings in actual in people's language other than me just saying hello, because I really think it would be more courteous to say hello in someone's actual language. So what I'm just going to do here is mark where we're going to start. We want these two parallel lines, right? So let's do that here. And yeah, still using a big old craft brush. And let's get some of that paint out of there. So you got line number 1. Let's put our second line in there. And you notice her foot is stepping over the line. She stepped over the line. That's because if the lines just kind of magically avoided the figure, it would look just a wee bit odd. Now, if you're wondering what the blue is that's on there, that really dark blue, that is nothing more than blue liner right there. Now we've got to get ourselves one of these little angled bits going on here. It's been long enough that I don't exactly remember the pattern precisely. But I do know I had a double line here. And that's another thing that you can do with freehand is just doubling up on your lines. Can give you some really interesting pattern, really no fuss. I mean, very little work and an interesting pattern. So what do we got here? We've got the arcs that we've got to do. And those basically begin right at the base of where that angle is. And let's do one arc that goes this way, one that goes this way, ends about there-ish. And then we've got, there's these little, like so. And the other one is underneath her foot. Don't have to worry about it. So we've got that sketched in now. Then we just have to do these little swirls right here. At some point, I was very disappointed. I tried to do some neat graphics for the chat redeem stuff, the redeem chat points, that's it. And it kept saying, most of my graphics would be perfectly fine, and then it would say that that file's too big, which was weird because it was the exact same, literally the exact same size as my emotes. And that was very disturbing that it would say, no, that is not the right size, that is too large. And I'm thinking, well, it's the exact same size as all the other ones that you said were fine. So not quite sure what's happening with that. At some point, I'll think of things that I can do for that. In the meantime, I'm going to do more of these little swirls here. And then drop that into the paint. And I do another swirl here. And these, yeah, I've got to have one that sort of intersects with the figure in some way. We're also changing the thickness on those. They also have to have their little leaves, so we'll do that. Where are we at? I just want to make sure you can see it. For whatever reason, boy, when I was doing those original painting pyramid videos, it was so hard to stay on camera. I quite literally had my elbows taped to the table. It wasn't enough. At first I started with little pieces of tape to say, put your hand here. Then it became, okay, we will just tape your arm here so that it doesn't move off camera. And remember, we're just bulking this out here. We're going to do some finer things with that later.
Little hobbits, spark my gun.
As Gandalf welcomes Dark Legions in the house. Thank you so much for the follow. Now we're gonna this is actually a little bit of the Pro Acryl here. It's the bright, no, it's the pale yellow. Now with the Reaper Clear and liners, as we talk about all the time, right? They just they're clear, but they're not clear. You can see there's plenty of pigment in these clear paints. But compared to these, you're going to have much more coverage on these. So that's when I need something to really cover it. That's when I just kind of reach for some of the Pro Acryls. Oh, Drax is to help.
Hello, little hobbits, spark my gun.
A lot of people put an X on the mat to help focus on that. Yeah, I'm just so used to it. As we get a follow from Nemo Incognito. Thank you so much. Well, you know me. If I'm not doing one of these, I'm filming a video for the Patreon page. Or for something. I'm filming a video. I'm either doing it live or I'm doing it as a recording. I basically film every single day some type of thing. Either this or a recorded tutorial. So there is actually, now, I think it's actually part of the Patreon page. I did that Brienne of Tarth, and that's this one over here. So you can start to see the difference between the two. Just the turquoise cloak. Look at the difference that turquoise cloak makes. And the armor is not it's not the blackened steel like we're going to be doing here. Again, we got to get this darker. We're also going to be getting more of the purples in there too. Now let's look at her. So her hair's almost darn near white. And I want to try and do this here. Her nose almost looks a little bit on the reddish side, and then you got these freckles there. We'll see if we can make those happen. But now, just take a look at how that has covered there. Big difference now from, say, just something like, again, the clear yellow. The reason I'm using that is it's going to be bright. It's got a lot of intensity to that color. But see how that's easier to fade than it was here with that bright ivory or bright yellow or whatever, that pale yellow, whatever it was. I already forgot what the heck it was. Oh yeah, a Drax in the house. Heck, I don't even know what time it is here. Okay, so it's 3:02 a.m. here. Now, we wanted to mess with some freehand on the cloak, right? We wanted to play around with that. Let's see what we can do with this here. I'm going to take a little bit of my... Now, that faded ultramarine, it's going to make that clear blue. It's going to stand out a little bit more. What I want to do is... We'll do a little line over here too. over here. And then we're going to do some kind of a shape here like this. And then we're going to do another shape like this. And then we are going to do some shapes like this. So we're going to try and mirror these here as best as we can. There we are. And we're going to just do some spirals here. Just some harmless freehand. Just chilling. Nothing earth-shattering with it. And you can see we're just doing it real subtle for right now. We don't want to... Well, you never really want your freehand to just kind of punch people in the face, because most people aren't really into getting punched in the face, for one thing. And second of all, it's a better idea to have it be a somewhat subtle. So we can have another, maybe another set of these swirls can emerge from there. Now this one, it's going to require some distortion because it's going over a
Hello,
fold.
little hobbits. Spark my gun, just.
As the malevolent baguette, which is, oh boy, that's almost a trophy winner name right there. That's got some specialness to it. That is fantastic. I do really love that name, and thanks for the follow. It's appreciated. We're just gonna have some fun with our freehand here. And essentially I just kind of look for little gaps like this. We put a little bit of a design in there. Something like almost maybe looks a bit like a flower petal, and then we've got another little area over here that maybe, oh, I don't know, we do the same thing. You can see it's got a flow to it. This was not difficult to mirror because, believe me, there's been patterns that were hard to mirror. And actually, oh, this one's on YouTube now. I kind of remastered this one. And remember the freehand craziness, oh, on that. We got a genuine vision. Thanks, Malevolent. I appreciate that. And we got a genuine vision in the house. So yet another, well, I would say go follow Genuine Vision, but everybody in the universe follows Genuine Vision already. So it's one of those things that need not be said. Let's see what we can do to extend this. We're going to extend down into these corners here somehow. There. Now that's going to be interesting to mirror here. So we've got this. We got to move this way, and then this has to swing down and around. We're just literally drawing. I'm just kind of sketching. It's like I got me a pencil and paper. Oh yeah. Speaking of which, that is actually kind of a decent way of, if you're looking to maybe do your freehand, you just take a piece of paper, you take a pencil, you draw it out. If you like it, keep practicing that, and then it sort of gives you that muscle memory, all right? So what was the, oh gosh, I don't remember. It was, I'm trying to remember what time it was during your stream, but you had, the beverage that you had was kind of a, I don't want to say an experimental one, but you said it had a lot of sugar in it, and it was almost kind of more like almost more soda-y like. And you said it was I think it was kind of dark and maybe more of a heavier, like more of a stout, I guess. I don't know. But I didn't actually see. I just heard your reaction to it, and you're like, would I get that again? Maybe. I'm not so sure. So yeah, we're using a little bit more. A little more of that faded ultramarine starts to pop in there. And the design itself starts to emerge a little bit more. Here, let's remember we did this original And it was all based on literally that. It was that little spike that I put there, and I just was able to build off of that spike. You can see that I can toss some more things here into these patterns. Oh, let's see. The pint was a stout, very heavy, too dense of flavor. Okay. Yeah, let's Richard Gray. Holy smokes! Actually, has he? When's the last time he posted something on his Instagram page? Because you just reminded me that I haven't seen it. He was working on the boy. I don't know if he was working on one of the Osyrex, but before that, was that the I don't remember what the name of it was, but it was one of the really nifty, super big undead. Not I'm spacing on the name, but yeah, you just reminded me. I have not seen him post something in a while. That kind of concerns me. Let's see. Oh, the sweet drink was spiced rum and Dr. Pepper. A spicy pepper. Now that, and it's interesting because I'm not really a Dr. Pepper sort of fan, but boy, that sounds like fun. That sounds like fun. I actually have me some Riesling here. I snagged that because, well, the with Kathy and me both doing the gin thing, I'm going into Miska's Liquors like every other week, and they're like, "Do you get anything else besides that sapphire blue?" Well, blue is sapphire. What the heck am I talking about? All right, let's see what we can do here on the top parts of this cloak here. This is his latest. So thanks for that link there. I am going to check that out. Now, what was the date on that latest post is? Because I have no idea how I didn't see it, because normally whenever he posts something, that's one of the very first things that I see. So we're just going to extend this a little further. And remember, we can develop this even more. We are still just kind of in the sketching. But oh, look at this. Look at this. We just created another little gap. Some of our little some of our little flowery things can go. Another little flowery thing. Let's maybe see what we can do to finish off something down here. Sorry about that. The voice is already doing weird things. Just kind of do a couple little sweeps like that, like you do. How's about something more? Oh, look at this. So these, look at that. So these can actually have more like petals here, maybe. They don't quite touch, but now what they do is they wrap around those swirls over that. We have a Bethany in the house. How are you doing? I said 2 days ago. Man. Oh, let's see. Yeah, and you are safe from object source lighting. There will be no object source lighting here. There's going to be lots of freehand though, because we also still have to develop this thing. We blocked it in, but we have not yet begun to freehand there. You know what? I'm so tempted to make the inside of that cloak some kind of, you know what? It says Brienne the Blue, but it doesn't say anything about the inside of her cloak. So, for funsies, we will make a play on change here. So we're going to take some of that clear red, right? We're mixing it with the blue we were using on our coat, and we're going to make a shift here. We are going to shift this around real quick here. A couple of things. First, I want to have red reflected light on the armor. And I also want to do something else here. So bear with me. This is something that Kathy and I, well, she was the first one to come up with this idea here. So let's just do that. Like so. Yeah, whatever. Let's. And this is what I like about the clear. See how I can just kind of take that. That's a little bit difficult to do with the Pro Acrylics because they cover so darn much. We've got Super Serban. Thank you very much. Nervous only watching can ever do the picky stuff like that. But as someone who cannot draw a straight line to save my life, freehand is scary. Well, there is, I think, and now have you seen, gosh, it's one of the older ones. It's one of the painting pyramid ones, and that's where it's that Greek kind of a hoplite style figure. Almost looks like, yeah, it's a little bit like a hoplite or maybe even Leonidas, something like that. But that's where I draw all the stuff out in advance. That might be because we used to do that. So let's say we wanted to do this cloak here, right? We'd take a piece of paper or something like that, and we'd sort of rip it till it was a similar. Well, first we'd draw it out big and see if we liked it. And then this would be the real test, is we would try and basically make it the same size as what we were painting, and then we would draw it on here. And we'd say, well, that's just too much. And then you would cut out some parts of it. Then we'd take another piece of paper, draw it, and then paint it. And then it's getting like into your head, right? Your muscle memory. All right, so we've got this in place good enough. It's good enough for what I need it to be because I am going to have me some fun. Do, do, do. What's something like this? Oh, we'll keep it simple. Keep this relatively simple here. Because the inside of that cloak was just looking way too freaking boring. It's supposed to be Brienne after all. I mean, it's got to have something going on more than just, oh, look, it's dark blue inside that cloak. Yay. That's visually stunning in a way that makes me want to close my eyes. And what I can do is, remember this little do thingy right here? I'm just going to repeat that inside some of these guys, real subtle like. And all of a sudden now this starts to look a little bit more interesting than it did a couple of seconds ago. This is another reason for that whole shaded base coat thing, right? Because let's say that I was painting only the armor and nothing else, and then I wanted to make a big change like the change I just made here. I had about 50 seconds of painting in on this cloak here. Covering up and doing something completely different was no fuss, no muss, because again, if I did this and didn't like it, what would I do? I'd just, well, paint it blue again. It would take me a whole nother 50, 60 seconds, blah, blah, blah. No big deal. So that certainly is going to be more interesting than, well, nothing, because there was quite literally nothing there. This side gets to be more challenging because we have undulations, which sometimes mean I cheat. And the first cheat was going on either side of that stupid pommel on the handle there of the sword. And we're going to cheat again because look at this. We're going to, oh look, we're going to miss that yet again. Remember also too with the freehand, sometimes suggestions are better than actually, again, pounding them over the head. Because I see freehand sometimes, and while it looks really nifty, it's one of those, it becomes a look at me sort of thing. Like, I know how to do this freehand pattern really good, and sometimes it's just then too much. So I'm going to do is extend the burgundy of my cloak out here a little bit more too. And now I can get some reds to reflect on that armor and give it some kind of color, because I wasn't liking that. There wasn't any color on there. So boom, right here. Right here is a spot. Poof. That now becomes a red reflection there. Oh, thank you, boss. It's appreciated. It's appreciated. And I'll show you the halberds in a second, because that will be a perfect thing for that whole idea of the red reflecting. So we'll do that here. Let's grab our halberds. And you can see again, now this is much more shiny. This is more of that kind of chrome, the shiny steel. But you can see on their shoulders there, you can see there is some of the red reflected as we get around towards the other side. Again, you'll see some of that red reflected in their armor. It's a real important thing to do. Real important. Here, let's go back to Brienne here now. Let us see what we want to do with our interior of Freehand here. We're just taking some of that maiden flesh. I'll take some of the orange here too. Let's see just how far we want to go with the lighter colors of this interior Freehand before then maybe we do some glazes to knock it down a bit. Now here in the folder, I'm going to pick it up a little bit here. We could almost make it have a little bit of a shine. Almost like, I don't want to say like a foil or that kind of silk thread or whatever. And maybe we'll take a little bit of our yellow here. That's that clear yellow. It lightens it, but it's not going to be so potent there. Yeah, let's get a little more of our brighter tone. Some of these little flowery type things that we put in there. Just I saw that design over here, which was neat, and I thought, oh, why not put it on this side? Here's another thing we're going to do to maybe unify this side with this side. We're also going to put some kind of a similar type coloration there. But first, let's do a couple of our, again, brighter lights where we see it in the folds. We're keeping it simple. We're just suggesting that. Look at that little flower thing. It's barely there because it's down in a fold. And if we were to make that too noticeable, it would draw the eye to it instead of other things that are way more important than that. Here it's okay because this is kind of out in the open. And this is another fun little thing to do here. See what we're doing here in the junctions of these. Giving them a little bit of a dot there, right? Now you can see this. Okay, same. So I got a crosshatch thing here. Where did he go? Ah, here we go. So this is my latest. This is for the Patreon page. This is my Knights of Dol Amroth, and I wanted to have some interesting heraldry on each guy. So you can see it. Look at that same, basically tic-tac-toe board, but instead I filled it there with the star, and actually there's like little swan boats inside each of those little areas there. And then we've got our swans here, swans here, swans over here. We got the star theme. We're repeating those themes in the same, different areas, different themes. Now here is this is a previous stream we did here. So there's that freehand pattern right there, right? Well, it was so simple of a pattern, I did it across an entire army. We're talking 50 some odd figures, maybe more, like closer to 60. That same freehand pattern is at every single one. It's just a simple pattern to execute, but it looks kind of complicated. You kind of make it look a little bit more juicy than it actually is.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
As Spiel Cartel has followed, thank you so much. That is Gandalf approved. Gandalf welcomes you in to some freehand madness here. So let's go back over here. We're talking about something we were going to do on this end. Something we're going to do over here. We're going to take some of that, again, that red mix there. And how's about, a little something like so.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
Oh, thank you for the follow, boss. It is appreciated. Boss Hedgehog, thank you so much. And look at this. It's very simple. This is not hard. But look what that added. But now it also kind of matches what we've got here. So we've got different freehands, yet they're tied together by color, the little flower type things, right? Now let's maybe do something like this here in the center. So now we have, again, another little accent right there. And we can always go back in and make those lines smaller. Sometimes it's easier to make a line smaller by putting it in there and then going back and painting over it. Now we're going to go with that same faded ultramarine. We're going to put a little bit of that maiden flesh in there, line that up a touch, and then let's start to maybe pick out some parts of our freehand here. We're going to maybe extend this down to here, but also have to remember where there's a fold in the cloak. We don't want to get too light down in those folds. We also want to remember we want to keep our freehand as subtle as possible. We don't want it to be taken over the whole thing. Just all I'm doing, I sketched it in. Now I can, at my leisure, pick out some of these. Like this, definitely going to have to be a little bit lighter here because it's right over a fold that's catching light to begin with. That's a shadow over there. We don't want to catch that. But then as we get down to the bottom of this cloak, we kind of stop doing too much of the highlight sort of thing. I'm going to take some more of that maiden flesh, and then we kind of double down on a few brighter lights in some places here. Let's do that. Hey, it's Mega Hamster. How are you doing? Welcome in. It's been sort of a freehand thing here. It's been a freehand extravaganza, actually, because we're still going to be working on that too. Where do we? We're over here. Now let's pick this side of that, and it should start to show and start to translate as what's in the shadow there is darker. We could also throw a little bit of a glaze over the top of that. Doesn't hurt to throw a glaze in every now and then. Again, just using some simple colors here, keeping things. Again, we used the same colors here we did over here. We got some really nice, look at that, we're starting to get some shading on this here. It all started with a triangle, a line and a triangle. Then we started adding some swirls. Then we started adding some little flowery things. And we changed this completely. That was dark blue over there not long ago. Not long ago at all. I want to get the top of this a little bit. See, look what that does. Look what that does. I want to get this central part a little bit lighter now too. So that part looks a little bit raised. Oh, how much lighter do I want this to be? This little flowery thing here. Not too much. And now we're talking about making some things a little bit darker. Let's take, here's a little bit of our blue liner here, a touch of the clear blue. Now it's not going to be super watery. This is the other advantage of the clear paints. Again, not clear, they just have a lot of pigment. Here, let's take away even a little bit. It's not a dry brush. I call it a damp brush, and I actually I started calling things like this a dry glaze. But look at what that does. Look at what this is going to do. So this is going to, again, tone down some of the freehand in those shadow areas. Look at that. So now we're starting to get some inclusiveness. We're going to do it right over the top of that. Can even wipe some of that away. So see, our freehand is still there, but now look at that. It's got a little bit more form to it. It doesn't look like it's just been like a decal. Because that's what happens. That is the thing that happens with a lot of freehand. It just looks like a decal. But look at how, especially here on the bottom part of that cloak, look at how that got darker there. I'm going to even do that a little bit here to that part of the design. And again, it's It was a glaze, but did you see water pooling all over the place? No, you didn't. But look, there's still plenty of paint on that brush. Now, if I was doing that, where the heck are, you know, the pro acryls? Not so much. Now, the transparent pro acryls, yes, you could do that with those because they're an awful lot like these guys. That's kind of what they're. It's essentially like it's all pigment and not a whole lot of anything else. Look at this. I can still. It's almost like it's oil painting. I can still blend and do stuff. Look at that. Now that cloak has folds, right? It's got some folds to it. No, Jan is looking for coffee. I'm actually looking for some Riesling, and I'm gonna have some right here. Just 1 second now. Now that is much better. So we've got that shaded. Oh, how's about a little bit of our sepia liner, a little bit of our brown liner. Oh, and we're gonna go boom, like this. It's a little bit of the same idea here. So we have toned down some of that freehand right there. It's Pascal. Yet another one of our European friends. Thank you so much for joining. Now, we've been doing a lot of freehand here. This has been what, guys, in the last half hour-ish or so? Then there's a Snowiak and Spiel Cartels. Did I hear Riesling? Yes. Now, this is the middle Riesling. I kind of like the sweeter Rieslings. Kathy prefers the driest Riesling. So we kind of just split it down the middle, and we get that sort of middle Riesling. I know that's not a real technical term right there. It's the best one that I have. But yes, I'm not quite sure how it became like a favorite for me, but it has definitely been a favorite for me. I really enjoy the heck out of it. Let's see. Yeah, so Mr. Snowiak, how are things going with you? Sorry that some of this freehand has already taken place, but we still have non-metallic metals and faces and other things to go yet, so there's more to come. But now I'm going to take some of that red liner. We're going to do the same thing. See, like almost like I do with the oil paint, right? We get rid of some of that, and now we're just going to add a touch of water in that. And just like we did on the back of the cloak here to tone all this stuff down. That stuff there was almost as bright as this at one point. But look what we just did here on the inside of the cloak. Look what we're going to do over here. Bang, we're going to knock that down too. There we go. And then we're also going to hit that with a little bit of red, just because it needs to be reflected there, and there, and there. So you see we knocked this down, just like we did over here, and then let's do, and we're just trying to make it a little bit brighter, like some of the areas that we did there. Well, I originally come from Rheingau, the Riesling part of Germany. Oh ho ho ho! Now that's that is a delicious part of Germany, because I love me some Riesling. I don't know. We kind of tried it, and I really liked it, and ever since it's just been, when people ask what wine, I always, do you have Riesling? It is always my first request. And a second. And a third. And if I butchered the name, let's see. Rheingau. No. Wait a minute. Actually, let's see. I'm just trying to think of certain colors that I've heard had the same name in it. So look at this. So you've got kind of a little bit darker, a little bit brighter over here, just like we've got here. Where you can still see a little bit of that And that was almost the same brightness there at one point, and then we lightened this one up more, and then we darkened that one down, so now there's some undulation there, but not a pain in the rear end to do, basically. Mr. Snow says it is a chill Sunday there, which means it's got to be 10:30-ish in Germany and Denmark, I would say, or at least in the western parts of Germany. Now we need some more of these little leaves on here, so we'll do some more of those. We will work on our swirl there, and over here we just want to leave that. I'm gonna grab a little bit of that sepia liner there. Not so much making that much lighter, but just reinforcing the design a little bit, like you do. And how's about maybe a little bit of reflected light on the feet? What else are we gonna do here? Let's maybe do a few things here on the face. So I'm gonna bring up this card here. See what we got going on with this. The blue eye, we got those freckles there, and the nose just has its. I don't know. That's supposed to be like that winter cold sort of thing. I've been doing that with a lot of the Song Ice and Fire miniatures. Let's do this. I'm gonna make sure it's where you can see it. And this is kind of where we get the 2-for-1. So we basically fit a whole big, almost like a mask around the eyes. That's kind of where it begins. I just wish I had discovered this years ago. And by years ago, I mean like 15 years ago. That would have helped. So many times dealing with things like eyes. Get that upper lid there. So we need some separation there, right? So here, let's just take, I don't know, a little bit of our kind of grayed down skin tone. And if we go in here, basically chop that in half. Oh, look, I got an eyebrow and an eyelid. Instead of trying to sketch those things and draw those in, it was one stroke, two stroke, boom, done. Let's see if we can do a similar thing. Bam, look at that. Just one brush stroke to do that. That's it. And not a lot can go wrong when you're doing one brush stroke. Oh, Bethany drinks Riesling or, let's see, good Strimer. Good Strimer. I'm going to say it that way. I'm going to say good Strimer. That's probably all wrong, but I'm going to have fun saying it that way anyway. Now let's see if we can't get these blue eyes going here. It can be tough doing that on these smaller, your 28, well, this is not 28 mil, this is more like 35 mil. More like a 35, but let's see what we can do here. Which way do we gotta want to look it off to screen left here. Eye number 1. Eye number 2. So I think we've got our blue eyes there. Yay. Good enough. Let us, you know what, I'm not going to go for the blue liner. I'm just going to take the brown liner and the clear blue because, hey, blue and brown basically make black. So we're going to go with that. We'll go with something like this here. Let's start to work in some nice darks into our armor and other such things here. Start to delineate a few shapes because we're past obviously that whole shaded base coat phase where things are nasty and horrible. Remember what this thing looked like an hour ago? When we were just literally slapping colors all over this thing. Now we've got freehand designs. We even changed the freehand pattern that we were doing. Well, we added one. We, again, that mid-course correction, whatever. Oh, let's get some of that back here too. Sketching in some of that, and what is it that we're doing? You can see it here. We're doing some of that. It's never never quite the same on the figure as it is on the concept art or box art or whatever you want to call it. But we're sort of almost putting like a default or a de facto horizon line there. Now let's just do that darker there. And we've been adding a lot of dark, so we're gonna eventually have to come in here with more mid-tones. Can't just all be endless darks. But this is where we're gonna take a little bit of that, a little bit of our faded ultramarine. We're gonna start to work that in here. Can you see that? I think if I twist it around, you can see it. And look at this, we're gonna add a few of these type of shapes. These are the really important ones here, especially that reflected red that's gonna go zoink right there. And we'll even, here, let's darken it down just a pinch. Darken it down a pinch there. Let's, again, more red reflected there. We got red reflected over here, but now we're going to another one of these really nifty, kind of like a vertical line essentially there. Then, this is where we're going to go the other way now. With some of our armor color here. Do some of that right here. See, these things start to get a little bit smoothed out. You start out rough, and then you start to refine. Start rough, then refine. Here, let's get ourselves a couple of these brighter lights right in here. Again, that metal, you want metal, you gotta have some of these really kind of, I sometimes just refer to them as like spectral highlights, where it's lights being bounced around almost like a prism. There, we're going to get a little bit of our sky blue in there, and then we'll work a little bit of our faded ultramarine into that. Going to mix a little bit of the maiden flesh into there. Then we're taking some of our, this is our maggot white, and a little bit of that pale yellow. And remember, that is your, that's your Pro Acryl there. That's the color that's really going to just kind of blot out the sun with its light because it covers so much. And it's also a yellowish color against stuff that's blue and purple, so we also get a color contrast there. It's not just light versus dark. That is so much more important. That's the thing that never gets talked about. There's so many different types of contrast. For whatever reason, it's usually just light and dark, and no such things as red versus green or saturated versus unsaturated. Not quite sure why. But let me see what we've got. Brienne of Tarth, the only true knights of the story. Yeah, it's, well, this is the third. I haven't painted the first one yet, but this is the third one that I've painted, the second one I've painted. So here's the first one. And this one came in the Bolton, or the neutral heroes box here. And it's very different with that turquoise. Yeah, I mean, everything about, and the hair is different too. Armor is, yeah, it's a whole different set of armor too. Not quite sure why. I never read the books or saw the show, so someone will have to inform me why. I don't know, her loyalties are changing maybe. maybe shifting loyalties, and that's why. But there we go. See, now we're gonna get some of that reflected light down there. I'm gonna do even a little bit more. That's that same maiden flesh, and then go back over here to you know what? We're gonna throw some purple in there. Why not? Let's do that. Let's see, can you see that? I do think you can. Not looking to outline this. I'm just putting a few there. And we're going to do the same thing here. Putting like a de facto horizon line there, but it's broken up. Sort of like what was done to those halberds with all of the sky earth on their nifty helmets and such. And actually that was the first Song of Ice and Fire unit that I did as part of the Patreon page. Those are the army painting series. And each series is 5 episodes long. And it starts as everything starts with basing, takes you through the entire process. We would talk about this, like this freehand stuff. Is it worth it to do it on every single figure? Like where's the Jamie? There it is. So like this. Is it worth it to do something like that on every single guy in the army? We actually time it. Does it take what? 10 minutes, 12 minutes, 15 minutes? Then you multiply it by the amount of dudes in the army and you go, all right, can you live with doing that many times? If the answer is yes, then by all means go for it. If you say, no, that's not going to happen, well, then you save it for maybe a special character like Brienne, or Jamie. You don't do it on every single pyromancer, every single halberd, every single mountains man. And some of them are also in oils, just like here's one of the guys here from the Mountains Men in Oils unit that I did. And this is another example here of contrast types. Now this is my fun little trick that I like to do. Zoink. We just made him black and white. So you see he still has shading, right? But then when you bring this back, guess what? There's a whole lot more going on. You got turquoise, you got purple, you got pink in his sword blade next to that kind of bright sky tealish type color. So that is the different types of contrast, more than just light and dark. Never dug into the lore. She was always with the Baratheons, but later shifted to the Starks because of an oath. So that's why I could swear I saw, when I was looking for references and stuff, there was a picture of her at the wall or whatever the Dreadfort thing is. Was she hanging out there? Now, basically, I'm so busy filming things, and while I'm doing stuff like this, there is no time for reading or watching of shows. And yeah, I couldn't tell you the last movie that I saw. I would have no idea. It's probably been, well, I think I saw the Midway movie last year, but that was like a special thing that people did for me because they know me and how I have studied that since I was 8 years old. But other than that, yeah, not I don't get to see much in the way of movies or shows or anything like that. But now it starts to make a little more sense why she's in the heroes box here. And there's other heroes. I mean, I've got tons of there's like 3 waves of them here. So here's I think that's Alistair Florent, right? And there's uh, Reese or whatever his name is, and we've got this lady here, and then like I said, we did these couple on a recent stream. I just put the remastered version of this up on YouTube, I believe, and then there was this guy here. He was pretty interesting, and we did that's where we came up with red green. That's right, which drives people insane. Just the very notion of red green as a color. Now, let's see if I can't double down on some purple here, like right there. And then some more over here too. And I'm thinking here, yeah, on my horizon line, going to do that. Now I think somewhere on my Instagram page, where the heck did he go? Aha! Or Instagram, yeah, Instagram account there. I've got Gregor, the alternate Gregor sculpt here, and he has that whole black and steel armor thing going on too. Now I'm gonna try and make that another tutorial for probably for the Patreon page, something like that. But basically, for was it 15 hours a month, you immediately get access to darn near 500 hours of tutorials. And now I've added sculpting tutorials because I just did my first sculpting tutorial. I'm gonna be doing more of those because, well, they're right now they're sort of conversion-ish type things, but I also want to sculpt some busts of my own, and I was thinking of trying to do those as basically recognizable characters so that people can sort of see the portrait painter in me. Here, let's get a little more interest on this sword blade here. Where's my... There it is. There we go. Just like that one mountains man got. We need something brighter here.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my gun jar.
As we get a follow from Grey Ghost, or is it Grey Gast? No, Grey Ghost. Thank you so much for the follow. It's appreciated, and Gandalf approves, obviously. Now, there we go. There's some of your... I saw a bit of a pink in that transition right there, because we can't just have it if it's only basically sky blue and white. It's going to be really, really boring, and that's why we are going to sneak some of that pink into here. Basically, the crazier colors you can put into your metals, the more kind of realistic they're going to look like. Why? Because it's going to look like they're in an environment. Speaking of Instagram, one of the things that I do is as I check out the Instagram accounts of people that they actually wear real armor out in the real woods with real other people, and those photos they're like a revelation. And there's again some red reflected in the armor from our interior here. I'm thinking I might have to still add some lighter tones here into the skin on Brienne here. Yeah, that's just the maiden flesh. So let's see. Oh, Gregor is one of the real villains. He is nicknamed the Mountain because of his size. Now, actually, go check out the YouTube video that I did on painting the mountain that rides. Okay, so we've got here we go. So this is one of those Dothraki screamers, right, that we painted, that horse there. He is virtually twice the size of this guy. He is monstrous. As big as that horse looks at 35 mil scale, imagine something basically twice as big as that. He's gigantic. Yeah, I think they've got several versions of him too. And then there's also his brother Sandor Clegane. They've got two different versions of him. I think I've painted both versions. Where is I swear I've got one of him somewhere. Well, they like to do that. Like there's a bunch of different versions of... It's like 5 different versions of Jaime Lannister, I think, by now. Now, some of them are NCUs, and some of them are actual, basically, field commander versions as well. So, here we go. This is a good example. So you've got was this Tyrion here, right? So this is the NCU version, and this is the combat version right here. This little head right there. Again, that same notion of freehand on the base. Recognize that pattern? It's the same one. We even reflected a little bit of it here just on him. You see how we added the little red in there on the floor? It gives it a totally different look. And then something like a craster here. And see, and his that teal color that's right there, it's contrasted with the purples. Like we got purple in his legs right there, right next to some burnt sienna. All kinds of fun colors. As we just keep seeking, I'm going to maybe make that a little bit, even a bit lighter here if I can, in a few places.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my gun, John.
Thank you so much for the follow, Harpy23. It's appreciated. And Gandalf approves, of course. Now let's get... I think we want some lights here also too on this pauldron and on the shoulder there. See if we can't get a little more of the skin tone reflected onto the armor here. Delicate procedure here. Like so. Again, if you're going to have this face right next to the armor, it's got to be reflected into it. It's my favorite thing with the Space Marines and all that other kind of stuff. They have either glowing swords or whatever, and they're right next to their armor, and yet somehow the light from that glowing sword has just been magically blocked somehow. Let's see if I can find my... Aha! Here we go. So this is another army painting series that's coming up here, and you can see there again the green from the robe reflected into the armor. Again, look at that. Look at her knee right there. See that green reflected in there? Oh, look. Freehand patterns again. It's reflected on the base, just like our Knight of Dol Amroth here. Let's bring him back. And the basing is very simple. It's the cork and Sculpey method. And then we paint the Sculpey. Same exact method, but look at the two very different bases that we've got here. And I think there's a link to the Patreon page. I think it's, what is it, on my homepage here on Twitch, whatever the heck they refer to it as. I don't know. Still getting used to all this stuff. They're still there, like, I didn't even know you could put links there. Like, what the heck is this? I basically just kind of stumbled across it by accident. So then I had to do some searches. We're going to get some lighter colors here. Again, these are those... It's the same sort of thing you just saw on her. Those linear highlights and darks. That's what makes that metal look semi-cylindrical. Otherwise, it wouldn't be cylindrical enough. And you got to have some of that cylindrical shaped lights and darks as well. So in here we got no reflected light. We must get some reflected light in here. Let's do that now. Let's see. Some of the different interesting colors is something I'm going to try with my Untamed Beasts. Yeah, what was... now, what was... did you tell Kelly what you were going to do for the basing theme? I could swear that you had a basing theme in mind. Because here's a couple of the ones that I did here. So this is where I wanted to have the jungle theme with the jungle plants and the big old skulls and all that kind of stuff going on. Had lots of fun with the skin tones too. And these were also done in oils. So even remember the freehand? Look at that. Just simple little swirl patterns here. Just gives them a little something extra. Little something extra. Oh, it's Sleeper in the house. How are you doing? Oh, snow. That's right. Okay. And I knew it was something like completely the opposite of what I was doing. You know, it was like I had the jungle and, well, Mr. Snowiak has the snow, of course. So how are you doing, Sleeper? I hope that you've had some success with some painting too. Since, what was it? Was it the weekend stream, right? I think you were hanging out in that one. Now we're going to Get some lights down here too. We don't want those to be, like I said, they can't be as intense as the stuff that's on the top of her shoulder and everything else, because how would that much light just magically get that far down? We also need some reflected light here too. Let's do that. Again, if I start diving into the faded ultramarine, it's going to be more opaque. Just have to always keep that in mind. It's kind of like the oil painting. Let's see. Oh well, it was really now. You didn't use fluorescence on that, right? I don't think so. But you will be amazed if you, and you don't have to get a bunch of them. Just the green and the orange one for sure. Vallejo makes them. I really like these guys right here. That the golden acrylics. Now I'm gonna get me some more of these brighter highlights here too. There we go. Now gotta work this down the back of the leg here. Just a couple of. That's right here. Starts to make those look a bit shinier. That's how. Pick up some of the rings here. The chainmail is done pretty well. Sometimes chainmail can just be done horribly, and it's a real pain to deal with. Time for some more mid-tones. That's the Maiden Flash. That's mixed with some of the blue liner. Gonna look for another. Here we go. So again, we're just doing these long linear shapes. Let's see if we can't get some lights on this sort of. You know what? I haven't actually. This is the thing. We saved this till basically the very end. We got our bold titanium white because it's going to cover. Oh, and we have. Speaking of covering, we have metagames in the house. Welcome in. Thanks for joining. Yeah, the golden acrylic stuff, and I've got all of them. Yeah, and they do really some fun, like right here. And this here, let's talk about this real quick. So we'll do our little thing with the taking away the color. So zoink, we make it black and white. He still looks like he's lit, right? That still looks bright. We still have value contrast, but now as we do this, now this is where the color contrast starts to come in. And you've got almost like a yellowish green here. You've got some blues, you got a bunch of grays, but then you have that really intense orange bouncing off of that. And that is, and look at here, boom. That looks like it's on fire. That fluorescent paint, man, what that'll just give you, it's unbelievable. Unbelievable what that'll do for you. So now that we're armed with our bold titanium white, we are going to try and get ourselves some nice little right here end of a sword, and then down here on the other side of the blood groove. Not the entire distance, just a little bit there, and then we've got to get the top edge of the sword here too. It's going to be a little bit tricky. It's a little bit on the flat side. It's not quite so sharp. Then we're going to have to start messing around with some golds here. I'm even going to, yeah, I'm going to get that a little brighter there. Let's do that on the other side now too. Just like that. Same thing here, the underside, this groove right here. Poof, we've got some nice intense contrast there. We're going to try and pick some up. These little dots on the chainmail, and not every single one the same level of brightness, because the chainmail kind of gets moved around, and it's almost like that mosaic tile floor where they're they're not all lined up together, and that's where you get like one is glinting more than the next one. Get the top of the shoulder there. Let's start to get some reflected light in here too. How's about a few of these brighter things going on her gauntlet there? Got to keep remembering that's her robe and not part of her armor. So like I said, we kept didn't go into this titanium until we were well far along with this thing. Then you pull it out just when you really need it. When you say, okay, I got this accent right here, and that's what I want to hit. Not going to do any of the freehand with that. Hey, it's Danny M. How's it going? I'm just having some fun here working on another Brienne of Tarth. And by another, I mean it's at least my second. I might have actually done a third one, but I'll show you the other one in a second. That it's all part of a commission thing, so I don't have the figure with me anymore, but I do have pictures of it. Boom. So there we go. So look at all the teals in there, and look at the armor again. It was more of a semi-polished steel. There we go. Yeah, I'm just trying to set up some of the next several videos here between prepping things and basing things and priming things. There's a whole lot of stuff that's going to be going. Actually, next weekend, I will be working on a gigantic half life-size bust. I mean, quite literally, the eye is almost as big as this miniature is. I mean, it's that freaking huge. So and I'll be streaming. I'll probably be doing other Blackheart models busts as well. Sort of like the Cool Mini Expo thing where I was doing all kinds of streaming there. I'm going to be trying to do that this coming weekend as well.
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my gun, John.
Thank you for the follow, Safety Dance, as we will add a little bit of dark in here. Yeah, just to see that kind of one little touch, all it took. I think that really added something to it. I do want to get a little bit more reflected light back in here. And yeah, we're taking the red from that cloak that we changed. Remember, we did a big old change early on. We said, nope, not liking that blue there. And then we just changed it. And that's something you can definitely do. Here, let's get another couple of linear things going on right next to that too. Some light, some dark, and they're not all complete. That's the other thing too, is that you could do something like that. And that could indicate, well, maybe that's part of a cloak over here that's reflecting on that, or something standing next to her, or something in the sky. Something is reflecting there. Speaking of reflections, I need some here too. Let's get another little touch of light there to indicate the top of that armor. Back to a little bit more of a mid-tone. That's, if you wonder what that means, it's just halfway between light and dark. That's all it means, nothing fancy. More cloak here. Getting a little bit of my purple in there too. Oh, how's about some of that on that belt? And remember, this cloak thing here, it does not take that much effort to do some really nifty freehand. Now, Danny M almost got a mini finished in 3 hours last night on the stream. Well, that's very cool. Now, what was the thing you were doing on your stream? And also, well, you can also do a shout out for yourself. What is it? What would we say it was? Oh, it's a be your own chatbot. That's what it is. So if you want to shout yourself out there, you can do so because I do not have the whole Stream Deck thing set up for stuff like. Well, I don't have a Stream Deck, so minor detail there. Eventually, I'm hoping to have things like that so that I can do the shout out thing and all the other fun, twitchy type stuff. So we added light down here. Now we're gonna go back into some darks. Just resolve a few shape. This now you're talking about the 3 hours. Oh, just a Space Marine. Well, hey, it's 3 hours is certainly better than 10. And if the results are pretty nifty, well, then that is definitely cause for celebration. Because I remember when we used to spend back in the early days, it took us a week to paint a Space Marine, and that was a week of several hours a day. That wasn't like a week of 2 hours a day. That was a whole lot of painting for just one Space Marine. And that wasn't terribly easy when you were trying to make your living that way. So I'm going to try and get some reflected light onto her face here. Again, trying to bounce some of the armor color up in here. So that's why it's got to be a little bit on the grayer side. Also got to do something here with her lips. I'm going to look at the card again. Just checking out the card here. We'll do something with that upper lip here. Let's get some of our red liner going with some of our clear red. So that sort of makes it nice. It makes it dark, but it also keeps it from. We don't want it super lipstick red, I'm pretty sure. Oh, my results are pretty standard compared to everyone else, though. Well, geez, when we think of what our stuff was like in those early days, I mean, we didn't know how to base anything. We didn't know what static grass was. All of this stuff with the painting of the marble, but I had no idea. That all just, we had to kind of figure that out on our own. Kind of the hard way. Now, fortunately, there's things like, I mean, we had Cool Mini or not back in the day, but now you got things like, well, YouTube and Twitch. So it's a little bit easier to watch people and just kind of get some ideas from them. That's really what I hope things like this does. It gives people ideas on how to do a freehand pattern here, but not have to spend a bazillion years doing it, so that maybe you could think about doing freehand on an entire army. Because if there's ways to break it down and just make it a little bit easier, you might be so inclined to then try it on a whole army. As I mentioned with those Dol Amroth Knights, we're not just doing freehand on the whole army. We're trying to do different heraldry on each one. And it also pertains to gameplay too. It's not just the fact that it would be really cool, but when you get into those scrums, it would be really handy to just look at somebody and go, yeah, okay, I know which one that is. Just by virtue of the pattern on their cloak and their horse and their shield and that sort of thing. Now, I am going to get something besides just the blonde hair color. Oh yeah, for me it's easy to watch, but pulling stuff like that off, it is definitely a practice sort of thing. Because we would look at the stuff that people were doing on Cool Mini, and we'd say, how the heck do we do that?
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my gun, John.
As we get a follow from Shrugging Atlas, thank you so much for the follow. That is appreciated. Here, let's we haven't actually used this on the hair in a while. This is that pale yellow, the Pro Acryl that is so intense as far as the coverage goes. I think it is time to get some of that here in the hair. I was just looking at the reference picture and it just seemed like that needed to be added there. And we'll get a touch of that back here too, I think maybe. Can see while that looked so light before, now that we've got that really light color next to it, makes a big difference. Now let's see what we can do here. That is the one thing with these Song Ice and Fire miniatures is, yes, they're one piece, but sometimes those mold lines can run through tricksy places. And definitely there was one of them here. Now I gotta keep remembering that's a cloak. I keep thinking that is armor for whatever reason. Now here we gotta do something with this. I think it's another place where a mold line, it's kind of like a river, but a mold line ran through it. So let's see what we can do here. Try and create the impression that we've almost got something like an infinity mirror here, where basically the two armor surfaces are reflecting on each other. And that's about the best way I can describe it. It is like an infinity mirror, where one reflects on the other, and then they reflect back and forth, and that's why we're doing this here. Now, let's see if I can get some of this, or some of my mid-tone blue in there. We need, just some kind of hint of reflected light down in here. Bam. That's it. That's all. Get some more of her, some of the blue there. What do we need over here? We need, okay. We need some slightly, not just lighter version of red to reflect that, but you can see it's not a warm red, it's a cooler red because we're actually mixing white with it. And you say, wait a minute, that makes pink. Let's see, betting the stream is no longer watching. Well, sorry, it seems to really, I don't know what happens to your internet down there, that's for sure. Sorry about that, but I will catch you next time. Thanks for stopping in. Now, let's get some more of this red reflected back here. And definitely, let's get there we go. Now, let's see if we can I'm going to get a little touch of that down in there, and here too. A little bit on the shoes there. Also got to get something going on down here. Now, is this going to, yeah, that's, I'll just go with that. And then something here with the sepia tone, and now I'm going to go with some orange here on that sword hilt there. Because we've got some greens. Orange and green are always a nice, always nice to have that contrast one against the other. Especially when you got so much of this dark blue type stuff going on all around the figure here. Look at that. Then it can even work for some straps. And once again right here. I still want to lighten that up a bit more. And again, look at this. This is basically white added to, but there's so many other colors around. It's going to read. It's going to translate as red and not pink because of what's around it. Because we have this muted red here. Now, what's going on back here with this one piece of it? It's a weird shape. There's a lot of weird shapes in this armor. In some ways, some of these shapes remind me of more of like the Tully Cavalier miniatures. Now let's do a bit of a, yeah. We need, again, speaking of that infinity mirror situation, we are going to try and get some more lights right in here. I want to get a touch right in here. There we go. So, and there's also that chain of highlights. It's a chain of light that goes right down here, through the arm, down through the gauntlet, all the way down. Some of our darker blue. Essentially, we basically remade blue liner. It was the clear blue and some of the brown liner. Basically made blue liner. Yeah, these are the Reaper paints for the most part, with a touch here and there of the Pro Acryls. Again, Song of Ice and Fire, Brienne from one of the new Baratheon hero boxes. I mean, clearly a combat style character. I'm going to get something to drink here 1 second. So, a wee bit of Riesling now. Let me see where's my... I got me a slideshow here somewhere. Actually, no, I don't want to do it because people think I'm actually leaving. But, oh, see, here's some of the object source lighting. So you saw the pyromancers in the green. Well, here, obviously with the orange, but this is another case where you've got that color contrast. You have those grayed down blue colors. There's some green in there. There's purple in there. And then you've got that fiery color right next to it. Here you can see, again, those bluish grays with the purples. It means so much. Here, let's, yeah. There's grays and browns, but you can see his little canteen there has some reds on it. His cloak has some greens. There's yellow in the wood and some greens there. Some bright greens in the wood of his staff. So many different ways to get contrast than just light versus dark. And I wish more people would kind of be aware of those other types of contrast, because they're more fun to get. They're more fun to look at, that's for sure. So here on this belt, I gotta do something. And I'm thinking we have not touched green at all. Let's throw some of that in here, shall we? We even mix that up with the red there. That's gonna make kind of a greenish gray. There we go. And I also am going to use some of that here in the armor as well, as far as some of the reflected light goes. And even maybe onto some of her skin here. Might even get a little bit of that into the hair. There we go. Always looking for new interesting colors. So see, we split that up again. It's almost like you're splitting all of these shapes over and over again. I think I'm going to want some of that on the interior of this blade here. Maybe even as a little bit of reflected light way down in here, which I'm not even sure if you can see that or not. Maybe not. I will on the opposite side. This is another one where it's just really torn up by the mold line that runs right through it. Want to get a little definition between the fingers here. If it's possible. Can you see that? I think so. And I'm just going to assume she's wearing some kind of form of those armored gloves. I'm going to make it even lighter again, going with that crazy sort of almost greenish color there. I'm going to throw some more of that here on the bottom. I wanted it lighter, but now you also have this contrast of this almost pink red here on the one side, and then over here you got some of the green. And I think I did some of that. I'm going to do another, and make it even, I think, lighter here. So there. Now let's go back to our blue line here. Let's separate this a little bit, maybe not quite so dramatically. There, so now we have a separation between where the face maybe is reflected and then the lighter green that we just been putting right here. Again, a little bit more of our reflected light. Some more of those little strands of lighter tones. And sometimes you just have to knock things down, or like right here, there's not any kind of separation there. Which way do I gotta go? Do I go lighter here with something like this, maybe? And then that's just to get that separation between the blue of the cloak there, which I think I think that worked out okay. Yeah, sorry about the voice there. Yeah, we will get a little bit of reflected light in here. Sorry about that. I'm gonna see if I can't sneak a little bit of this purple into her face, sort of like it's reflecting a bit of the metal into it. There we go. Didn't really want to give her the 5 o'clock shadow thing going on. That also needs to be lighter too. I'm gonna go into some of the maggot white there. That's that bluish white. Then was wondering if that was her. No, I'm not gonna say that's the cloak. I'm just gonna say it's part of the armor. Let's see if I can get. This is another edge that kind of was fouled up a little bit by a mold line running right through it. Again, by doing these little, that could be torches there. I mean, you literally could if these were orange or something like that. It would look like maybe she's walking up to somebody that, like a group of guys with torches. But now we need to do some reflecting here. So these things that I added here are reflections for that. Now, if I can find the guy I'm looking for, which is this guy. So see on his helmet right there? See how he's reflecting some of the blue of the cloak? But then look at his helmet. See those, how the feathers or wings or whatever the heck those are? See how those are reflected onto his helmet there, the metal? That's the kind of stuff we're talking about. It's really important to have that. And those reflections are just so valuable. Now I'm going to go get purple here, add that to my blue liner, see if I can go after this blood groove here. Haven't really touched that since the beginning. Yeah, there we go. That needs a little something there. And I'm thinking maybe some darks. There we go. Again, maybe this is somebody she's walking up to, but it was looking too rounded. It shouldn't really be round. It should be more vertical, and that's what I'm hoping that I just did there, is added some verticality to it. That's better. And even, yeah, so we can go back in here and we'll add a little bit of reflected light there. So again, making it just look, gotta make it look shiny. That means reflecting things just here. Remember the infinity mirror effect? So we gotta get more reflected light down here. Basically, this is reflecting onto this. Let's do that. I also need to have on this pauldron right here, we need to get some reflected light there, but also some light up on top. That was just looking really flat. I hadn't really done anything to that since a long time ago, so we hit that a little bit. And we're going to, yeah, let's get a couple of more of these brighter lights here on some of the chainmail bits. What do we need here on this? I'm just looking at this sword blade to see, do I need to get, I need something else on her hand there too. Just going to dim down one of the lights there. It's so weird for me, I'm practically blinded, but now look at this. See the difference? We have the blue there, but that's almost like a grayish color. It's got a little bit of green to it. Let's, if we're going to lighten that there, let's actually grab a little bit of that lighter green and use that. Again, looking for more reflected light over here. A little more separate. You can see we've got the red of the cloaks in there, just like we've got over here. Maybe a touch more reflected light in some of these places. Oh, like say there. What is happening there? Again, this is an unusual type of armor here. It is the nearest thing I can say to it has that same shape as some of those, the Tully, I just call them the fish knights. The guys with their fish helmets. And I'm going to double down even more here on this dark that's right by her face. I want it to look like her face is reflected in that, see on that right there, on that part of the plate there. Oh, it's a pigeon. How's it going? Let's see, you have any advice on cleaning up secondhand minis? I got some Nurgle boys, they're a little dusty, questionably magnetized. Well, let's see, actually that one army painting series I did on the Necrons, that was a reclamation project. Those things were basically destroyed. Now, we don't usually strip miniatures ever, except when we kind of buy those used and abused ones, then we will strip those. But for the most part, I'll just, well, most people they haven't filed the mold lines on them either. So I'll file mold lines. I'll basically take that file to them and I'll sort of file some of the paint away so that I don't have to deal with stripping it. Because like I said, I really never liked that process at all anyways. And if I can just avoid doing that, I definitely try to. And actually these little sanding sticks like this here, this is what we use a lot. There we go. I think it's $6-7 or so on, and there's 20 of them in there, and I just got them on Amazon, and there's different grits, so sometimes they'll actually file away the paint because you got some really fine grits in some of those those sanding sticks, and that should give you a chance to actually take away some of that paint along with some of the mold lines. Now I'm going to get, I think, more reflected. Oh, there's actually a couple of, we need some sort of a brownish color here. We got some leather straps there. I don't see them on that side though. Yeah, I think we've got okay, let's take down that one highlight there. That makes it look a little bit too much like metal. We don't want that. I'm just going to throw something in here. I need something to distinct. There we go. We just need something, some kind of a difference in shape there. Same thing here. Gonna maybe even make that brighter than it should be. Just so that I get some, there we go. See that? Those couple little red dots that were added in there now. Again, it's little bit like what we did here. You can see again the green that is reflected, especially there on the underside of her knee, and the base reflecting onto her foot there. All those reflections, that's what's really going to give you that sense of it being, well, metal, as opposed to not metal, as opposed to some other surface. Here, I'm going to see if I can't get a little bit of rosiness into the cheeks here. I might even go a little bit, add some lights into this. On her chin here, yeah. We haven't really messed with the face in a while. Here, let's get another little touch of a light there on the eyebrow. Get some separation for that. Now we also have this crazy sort of reddish. Now let's see if I can give her the pink nose kind of thing. Gotta make it darker here. Not sure if that will work out exactly the way I want it to, but I mean, we were actually really trying to mimic the, what would you call it, the box art, cover art, concept art. Now with the, I did take the liberties here with all of the freehand stuff that we were doing. Let's see, sleep rat, how often do you change your brushes? Not very much, because this is seeing a whole lot of action here, as you can see by the handle. This is the key. It's the craft brushes here, because for the whole first, or at least the whole first half of this, two-thirds of this, I was just using these two brushes, and the idea is that this one, since it's more of a veteran type brush, that's where we get our Swiss Army brush, because when I spin this around this way, look, it's actually got the same type of tip, but it can do very different things. That's why we get these sort of brush strokes out of it. And I was actually taking this brush with some of the clear blue, and we were just basically doing a dry glaze over this cloak to knock down all of this freehand pattern that we did here. And then we did something similar to that on the base, same sort of thing. But the brushes just last a whole lot longer, because most of the abuse is being taken by the brushes that are, well, basically about 27 cents a piece, because it's $5, 12 brushes. Hey, Oliver Ghost in the chat. Yeah, I'm enjoying this. I was able to get some fun freehand here on the base, on the interior of the cloak, which we basically made a change there, because it was originally just dark blue. And then I had some fun just sketching out the freehand pattern on the back of the cloak. And I wanted it to be different than, again, some of the stuff like that we did here. This is one of the previous streams. So we had a kind of, again, a combination of simpler shapes. Even there is the same kind of squiggly shape. Someone in the stream mentioned a rose. So we did that little bit of a rose on there. You see we put some thorns here on those little bits of the freehand right there. And then here's another version of the same. So the pattern that's on the base, you can see that's on his cloak right here, just with some modifications. Doesn't take, you don't have to do super complicated patterns to get some really fun results. Now what I want to do is see if I can't maybe get some lighter red. Oh, thank you, Armored Wolf, for the cheer. That is much appreciated. Well, that means that Wappel Spellbreak, he comes out, he needs a drink because he needs his sustenance. So he drinks out of his tip jar, and thank you so much, Armored Wolf. And speaking of Armored Wolf, please do check out their Etsy store, because dice bags, and I mean real dice bags, not those hunks of leather with a strap that you see. These are the real thing with metal working and teeth and bones and all kinds of studs and rivets, you name it, it's on there. So go check those out. Actually, on my YouTube channel, I've got a video where I was painting one of those in oils, painting a wolf face on there, and we will be painting some more of those with spacescapes and other predatory type creatures. And let's get some more of our. I'm just going to try and lighten this up a bit here, but also keeping it on the cooler side. And yes, instead of using my usual orange or yellow to lighten it, look at that. I'm diving into the white over there, but yet it's not turning pink. It's not turning pink because we have some of the blue, some of that blue liner that we used in the very beginning when this thing was ugly and nasty. I just like watching things fall in the. It is pretty wild to. Oh, and there's a bunch of little snowman faces in the cup too. I usually end up seeing everybody else's. It's kind of fun to see what Pelly is drinking out of his own little tip jar there. I've got actually. I was thinking of making like a PNG graphic or something like that that goes over that, and it'll look like it's kind of some kind of etched on there or something like that. And I'm just going to make this a little bit lighter. It also means I got more chances for reflecting some of the light there. Yeah, I just wanted to get a little more life to this cloak right here. You know what? I'm going to look at this. I'll go even further with this. Again, it's almost like it's pink, but it ain't pink. Especially next to what it's next to. We will do the same over here. You know what? Oh, gee. I've been doing all this red stuff, and how did I not reflect red on, I don't know, thing that's supposed to basically be gold there? That's no bueno. Let's get some red reflected on those bits of chainmail. I'm looking for that there. Yep. That's better. That's going to reflect some of this now. And I do see we need something going on in here. How's about just whatever? Something that's a mid-tone. Toss it in there. Oh yeah, let's do something. Play with our green over here again. See what we can do with that. And of course, it's kind of almost like a grayish green here. Oliver Go says, "Are the Reaper paints still your favorite acrylics?" They're the most utilitarian because the clears and liners can do everything. With the Pro Acryls, it's really the transparents that I like, and you use those kind of in combination with the regular paints. And you asked it the way, in a very clever way, because you knew if you said, "What's your favorite paint?" I would say oil paints. But as far as acrylic goes, yeah, the Reaper stuff definitely. It's simple. With those few simple colors, I can do so many things. The Pro Acryls are nice because they have that ability to cover, especially with the lighter colors that the clear liners they don't necessarily do. And obviously, you'll hear me say all the time, you use whatever paints work. You know, even if it's just one color from a paint line, and if it works for you, get it, and I will show you the example. So here's the one color that I use. Where did you go? You're around here somewhere. Aha! This is the only thing out of all the stuff that Army Painter makes. This is the only stuff I use and will ever use. It's their anti-shine. The vibrancy of the inside makes the outside of the cloak stand out the other way as well. It's amazing what, I mean, it just doesn't take too much, but just that little tiny bit. Now here, actually, the red is that's more of the orange red, and that's a big temperature difference there. will throw a touch of it here. Also going to see if I can't get, yeah, I wanted to sharpen that up a little. This is the nice thing with the freehand. You sketch it in there, and it can be rough, and then you just refine it over the course of the rest of the time you're working on the figure. I would like to possibly, now this is the Pro Acryl here, and Pro Acryl also has that faded ultramarine. It's just a, for whatever reason, it has this kind of luminosity to it that makes it really fun to use for so many different things. Would like to get, yeah, and I think the same thing on the opposite side over here. Maybe not quite as dark on this. Maybe a little lighter up here. Maybe this gets a little lighter. But again, it's all that kind of stuff that I can now kind of play with and manipulate. You you could also just, play this in a couple of games. You take it off the now much contaminated paint container that's not supposed to have a big old red splotch. It's just I dumped it in there as we were starting the video, or starting the session, I guess I should say. Yeah, oh, we gotta get this. How can this not be? There we go. That's one. Now we've got that. It runs all the way down. Somehow I just went right over the top of that and didn't realize that that also needed to be lightened up a bit. And we can go a little more on that right along this edge. Just trying to make that part of the cloak really stand out with that fold. Yeah, now I think yep, there we go. Now we really hit, but see how that there's still, you can see the freehand down there. Look at this. Look at this. There's a Mike Disney. Speaking of follows, definitely follow Mike Disney, doing all his fabulous art stuff, 2D art and miniature painting. Well, that and Pictionary too. That's usually a Thursday thing. Oh, and Oliver Ghost bought some of the liners and clears and gonna try them out. Yeah, well, that's what I've been using on the Dull Emroth Knights here. That is mostly the clear and liner paints on these guys here. Oh, it's Mac Readiness in the house. Let's see the so this is kind of a Deepkin thing, huh? I'm gonna have to, well, I'm gonna have to get me some of the Deepkin. There's some of those special characters, especially, that could be really, I think they could be pretty darn fun. I think those could be nifty. I also want to have my little flowery things here, get some more light. Oh, we're looking over here, Oh yeah, yeah, Mr. Snowak's been in here. He's been hanging out, doing the thing. Gonna get that. Yeah, let's a little more resolution in that. I don't know if it's a flower petal or not. Don't really know. It's not a big deal, but yeah, I love that. So glad we made that change on the interior there. That was very cool. Oh, let's see. Just got a ton of plastic crack. Oh, yeah. Yeah, there's the plastic crack, the resin crack, the metal crack. Well, there's not as much of the metal crack, I suppose, these days. I guess there's just not as much of that. I'm going to try and bring out a few of these. Again, that's the similar, kind of mimicking what we had on the back of the glove. I'm going to try and throw a couple of those, make those stand out, maybe a little bit more here on the interior. Let's see. Yeah. Well, the dark sword, I have tons and tons of dark sword figures. I've actually, what's the for the Patreon page. I think I just filmed Dark Sword 30 something ish. And then, let me see if I can grab this here without destroying too much stuff. Where are you? You're around here somewhere. I guess I can't find him. I thought I had him right out here, but I do have. Oh, speaking of, so here we go. This is one of the Dark Sword figures here, and this is one of their medals, obviously. But that reflected light, now this is true metal metallics, right? But you see that red and the red over there, that is actually red paint mixed with metal medium. You can see on his chest plate there, again, that red, same thing over there. Even with the true metallic metals, we're still reflecting light, we're still reflecting those reds and other colors. Let me see. My old hammer metal beasts. That's it. Into dinosaurs, giant monkeys. There's oh yeah, Kathy was talking about the drowned earth thing, because wasn't on their last podcast where they? No. That was it the brush guy that was interviewing they're doing, like, I guess another expansion of that, or it was supposed to be like drowned earth or something like that. The name drowned earth came up in the conversation, that I do know. But I am going to try and right here on the edge of this cloak here, gonna do those little dots like this, and to show that that's sort of a finished, like an edge right there, because conveniently my diamond shapes just happen to end right there. And let's enhance some of those shapes a little bit. I might even do a little bit more here on a few of these that were knocked down. And right there too. How's about a little more orange into that? Now we have mustered the Rohirrim for a host. Thank you very much, Danny M. I appreciate it. Yeah, this right here at the start of this a couple hours ago, right? It looked like that. That's how much paint was on here. That's how much freehand was on here, and on the base, that's what he looked like. 2 hours and 33. She looked like 2 hours and 33 minutes ago. Yeah, Pigeon. I just actually it was. It's supposed to be my sound for my one of my text message things, but for whatever reason, my phone and Zedge don't really like each other. But I just took that same Zedge sound and I just had to have it here. I think the subscribe. Well, no, what's the one for Gondor? There is a little Battlestar Galactica. Oh yeah, that's the sub. For a subscription, you get So Say We All, which is also on my phone. But it's also here. Oh, we're gonna get a little bit of this. Again, that's that pale yellow. That's from Pro Acryl. Again, using the thing that does what it does well in a spot where it should be successful, and that is adding right in here. Look at that, just a few more strands. There really wasn't much in the way of hair. As far as the sculpt goes, I think I had to file down some of that just to get rid of the mold line. So we're basically painting in the hair texture now. But you can see there's even here, there's reds and greens and yellows and all kinds of fun, fancy stuff going on. We have tons of nice reflected light things that are happening. And I'm going to play here with the nose. See if I can make it more like the card here. Now I'm seeing those, but I can only imagine our freckles. I don't know. Let's see if we can maybe do some of those. Let's see if we can't put some of those in here. It's again, that's the red liner mixed with some of the blue liner. It's really, we're thinning it down without making it too watery.
So say we all.
Oh, well, thank you for the subscription. And he's at So Say We All. And that, oh, he has to drink out of there. That's what he does. Something goes in the cup. He's got to drink out of it. Thank you very much. Oh, that's the art of Mike Disney doing his thing again. He does that. He
So
gets
say we
sneaky.
all.
He done got sneaky again for Macready. So we're going to go with a little bit of a... He likes, yeah, he's eating all them little things in that cup right there. That's what he does. Now, I do believe we've got that thinned down pretty well and also not too incredibly dark. I don't know if this is even going to work or not,
So
but we'll
say
give it
we
a
all.
shot. That's, oh my goodness. Thank you for January. I wonder if Jan is still around or if he's getting ready for his stream. Now, does Jan do a Sunday? I think he said he was going to do a Sunday stream. So I think we've got a couple little freckles there. I think, ooh, they actually go a little bit further this way. I did actually do several emotes. There was one. It was the for like the chat reward too. I did the exact same size dimensions, and they said nope, that size is no good. I'm like, wait, it's the same size as the other 5 that you approved. So I've been trying to do more emote things. I guess I think I had used up all the slots that I have. But I think I've got some slots open now. Now I'm gonna have me a couple of little striations there again of light and dark, because there's the Mordor, there's your wolf, there's your Rohan symbol there. Those should be there too. There, I needed a little again more reflected light in there. Always more reflections. Thinking about some purple in here too. Oh, the whipping room. That's right. I heard him mention that. That's the first time I've heard him mention the whipping room. Now, oh boy, I don't think I can get down in. I guess I can a little bit. I just noticed that armor shape there. I'm like, holy smokes! I get more little bands of reflected light here. That is just kind of a weird dark shape that we had to do something with. Let's see what we can do with that. Right here on the elbow. This also needs something. It really does. We're going to get some dark up in here, some dark over in here. Again, we're trying to have this shoulder thing be a little bit more like on this side. See how we reflected the face in there? That gave it a little bit of shape. We need to do something here too. And I'm thinking reflected light. That's what I'm thinking. Oh, let's see. Pigeon is introducing the girlfriend to Lord of the Rings. We just have Return to Go. She's a classical musician. Oh, yeah. Well, that's why let me see, get down to my, that is why I could not wait for one of my Boom. That's one of my army painting series there. I had to do Rohan. And I started with the infantry. But now on our, actually it was my very first real stream here. Or are they? Aha. So I did these guys here in oils. And I'm actually going to be doing some sculpting or I convert the regular riders of Rohan into Royal Guard. That I'm really looking forward to. And oh, this is another one of my YouTube live sessions here. This is Brand. This was another exercise in freehand. So there we go. So we freehanded that pattern on there. We did that. We did that. So all of those nifty little freehands, and then we took this and we turned that in a little bit of a braid right there because there was kind of a whole lot of nothing going on and we needed a little bit of something. And I'm even going to, I'm thinking about, this is a little bit of toning down here. Yeah, just a pinch of tone, like that. There. And sometimes that's all that it takes. Just that little bit of a modification. Now, should we... I want to get some, because this is Brienne the Blue. Yeah, Brienne the Blue. And yet, that cloak really does look purple. But that's why we use the faded ultramarine to try and get a little bit of purple in there. But speaking of purple, let's see if we can't do some genuine purple in here in some spots. See what we can do with this. Let's have some fun. Oh, let's see. Back readiness page, a wise choice for music and movie. I think that might have, because well, just like I never saw the series or read the books for Song of Ice and Fire slash Game of Thrones, I had no idea what Lord of the Rings was before we walked into that theater. I had no clue. And the Rohan thing, that was one of the things that definitely secured my interest was when I saw the whole Rohan thing. Now, of course, me being me, I am also working on a Dunlending army because natural enemies right there. So got to do that. Also think, look at this little touch of red reflected light in some of those places. I'm going to go back to my green over here. Going to go back into my green. Yeah, you're awesome, man. Now that's see, that's the other thing. Now I wanted to have for channel point or no chat point rewards. What I wanted to have was a graphic of the gate at Moria, and a sound would play because I have it already. The speak friend and enter, and that's something that someone could activate with their chat points. And well, that's where it was giving me problems with the one with just the emoticon graphic, and then I just never went past it. I don't know how I can, without just doing it manually, where someone says, "Okay, I claim this chat reward." I think maybe that's what I'm seeing is maybe a lot of people are just doing it manually, and I keep thinking that it's something in maybe an alert box or something. Let's see. I think I'm going to look into the Armored Wolf bags here next weekend. Yes. Oh, wait. I have it. I finally have it. So this was painted in oils. So this is the raw, unsewn leather. But look at that. There he is, man. He is looking at you, Mike Disney. He says, "Buy me," or something like me. There you go. So I painted that. Yeah, it's a YouTube live session that you can check out. And this was a blast painting in oils on leather. That was so much fun. That says, yep, that is, I'll have to show you Kathy's Nurgle bag at some point because that is pretty epic. That's pretty darn epic. I've got to have a Rohan bag. I've got to have an Easterling bag. Oh, and a Dol Amroth bag for just, cause. I need to do something with this edge here and make sure this kind of makes sense. Uh-huh. that just about does it there. Because remember, we just kind of suddenly made that snap change. Oh, Macaredes asked, did you ever work on a Blackhawks theme for your... No, I was thinking that I've got a bigger version of that. That's the miniature sized one, but I've got a 54 mil version of that. And I thought I could do that one in Blackhawks theme with, maybe a stepping on a Red Wings logo or something like that. Ooh, not that Mike Disney's listening or anything. Not that he's listening. He didn't hear that little thing about the Detroit Red Wings. So here, where is he? There are, like right there, that is the some of the S. That's the 1909 or 1908 White Sox logo. Oh, it's lots of sass, baby. A whole lot of sass. Yes, indeed, as I make Brienne the Blue a little bit more blue here. Or at least some lighter blue. What's happening here? I need to give that a little more structure. A little more structure, a little more unity. There's a lot of little shapes going on, and while that's fun in metal, sometimes you have to unify those. What better way to do that than some kind of light green color? Because that certainly makes lots of sense for metals. What if we go even lighter here along this edge? Right here, looking for this. Boom. Bang, right there. And then just leave it. Now, the other thing we were messing around with here too is, can we do acrylics over some oils? So, let's grab some of this brown liner here. And remember, we were already playing around with it a little bit, but look at this. Yes, we can. It covers just fine, no problem whatsoever. Here, let's do a little bit of, let's do some, so right here in his tail. Look at that. Is that beating off? Nope, it's staying right where it belongs. That's your acrylic paint over oils. I can see a whole bunch of shapes here that just need some reinforcing, and we're going to do that here with some of the browns and reds. Like right there, get nice, rich dark there. And again, that is what I did. One second here, let me move these guys out of the way. That's what we did on this guy here. So I added obviously the tufts of grass there. I did the same kind I was just doing here with adding in the extra darks, right, on our little Dothraki Screamer. We'll continue to add some more of these darks here and just resolve. Look at that here. Definitely needed some separation. I know I was just asked earlier today, can somebody just wait till this dries and then maybe go over the top of it with acrylics to get more definition? And well, yes, you can. Look at this. I'm painting with this with acrylics as if everything on here before it was all acrylics. You can do that. Yeah, let's get a little bit of get more of the shadow colors into his hair. Maybe make it a little bit darker than some of the other guys. We never really got a chance to do the eyes on this guy. We can do that now. Give him a little bit of a mouth right there. Got him sort of looking off this way a bit here. Let's do something on the horse's mane here. There. And you can even do something like this. So we're almost going to do a little bit of a glaze here, right into his mane. And it sticks just like it would stick to acrylic paint right there. That's all a bunch of water there. You can see it's not beating away or anything like that. Oh, let's see a couple of interviews with James, and it really does. Even the beard and the hair. Yeah, that was really fun. I really appreciate Andreas. That was Artisan Guild that did that. They are the same ones that made the troll that I did, and I'm gonna do another glaze right here. I'm just gonna go with zonk. Look at that. That's just a glaze right over the oils, and look, we take some of it away. Bang, right there. So it's just like everything that I've been doing on here. And this was 100% acrylics over acrylics, right? Now we're transferring that over to here. I'm just gonna do a whole bunch of glazes here, and they will all stick to the oils because the oils are dry. Why would it not stick to dry paint? And as I hit it with the Army Painter Anti-Shine like I would any figure, even the acrylic ones. See, look at this. I can get some more. This is almost like what I do with oil. So I just threw that little glaze over there, right? Look at this. I'm going to pull that right along the surface. So yes, I can, it's almost like I'm doing oils, but with acrylics. Which again is why I always, when people ask about those water-soluble oils, I say we all have them. They're known as acrylics. You probably have hundreds of jars of water-soluble oils at your disposal. You just didn't realize it. Oh, what shall we do? Yeah, let's do another little glaze right there. Then we take some of the paint out and take the paint away. Like so. That's acrylics over dried oil paints. Oh, Rick, Mike, this thing, have you saved art for when you were a child or young adult? Like when you first started realizing, I actually have, I was just mentioning this to actually a 3D printing person. I still have seascapes that I painted when I was 11, 12 years old in oils, ironically enough. And one of them actually is hanging up. The other one had been hanging up, but I don't know where that one is. I'm sure it's around somewhere. But oh yeah, I still have. Actually, there was one of them that I was actually thinking of repainting on stream. This is one of my favorite pictures of a sailing ship. And I thought that could be fun to actually repaint that. Oh, X amount of years later, we'll just say that. And do that on a stream. So that is definitely a future thing that I want to try to do because I thought that would be really fun. See, look at this. Let's say I want to add some more. Again, just doing this with acrylics. Look at this. I can do some more here. And it's sticking just fine. No problems whatsoever. Just as if I had all along been working with acrylics. Now we're going to take the brush, we're going to flatten it out, and we're just going to push that around on the surface here. Let's get a little more of it. That's very similar to what we did on this part of the cloak here to shade our freehand and make that a little bit darker. Yeah, all I have to do is I've got to find that paint. I have no idea. I could swear I just saw it like a couple of months ago. And it was actually, I don't know, at the time I didn't know about reflected light and reflected color. So when I painted this sail that was reflecting and I didn't have oils, actually that was in acrylics there. But I was trying to basically paint the painting that I saw, and there was a lot of blue in the sails until I ran out of that color, and then the rest of the sail was shaded exactly the same, but it looked more like this in comparison. Voomp. It looked more like that because I didn't really know about reflecting blue. I didn't know about reflecting those colors in that same way. Let's see, I get a weekly or bi-weekly fit. Well, unfortunately, I don't really get very much time to do the 2D painting because it's the miniatures that is the thing that keeps lights on and that sort of stuff. Um, Actually, check out the blog because you can see there the 9 drawings, or they basically they're paintings that were drawn out in round about 2001 when our 2D art business got wiped out by 9/11, and those were 9 paintings that were all set to be done, and then basically in 2000 by 2002 we weren't doing 2D art anymore. That was basically what is happening to a lot of folks' business right now. That's what happened to us in 2001. And that is why we are miniature painters today. Now, that's why I'm trying to do things like, well, the Patreon page and this to try and take away some of the commission burden. Like right now, these are all commission figures that I'm working on. There we go. A little reflected light there. See on our, look at that. On the end of that sword gives it a little bit. Is there a lady bee in the house? Yes, the week of 9/11, as in I think it was September 15th, was going to be Celtic Fest in downtown Chicago. It was our biggest show of the year, and it was about 20% of our income for the year. And not only was that show immediately wiped out, but basically the rest of the year in 2002 was smoked as well because people either didn't want to travel or they couldn't travel because gas was $5 a gallon, or when they got to a show, they had no money because, well, all their money went into gas. Again, price gouging, that sort of thing. You had the anthrax scare, which meant we could no longer get our Celtic drums that I was painting because those came from Pakistan and they were made of goat skin. And goats is where anthrax comes from. So that pretty much wiped out the business. But at the same time, you had this thing called eBay, this other thing called PayPal, and then this other thing called Cool Mini or Not. And we had already started experimenting, basically painting miniatures for our friends in our Blood Bowl League. And all of a sudden, by 2002, especially by early 2003, it was all about the miniatures. We were painting miniatures for companies and that sort of thing. Started with Cool Mini in I think it was actually November of 2003. Yes, I still remember that. I'm going to get a little bit of dark under there. Again, I'm trying to mimic what I'm seeing here on the nose. I was able to get some of the freckles on there. I might lighten the cheek to make the freckles show up a little bit more here. Let's see if we can be successful with that. Again, liking just the semi-translucency of the clear, but that's a similar thing with the transparency from Pro. There we go. That gives it a little bit more of a. Here, let's do it some more on this cheek over here. One more round of lightening that up. I think I might still put a little touch of a highlight there on her nose. Do I need to lighten this reflect? I don't think so. The very first figures that we ever painted were Blood Bowl figures. Actually, I did on my YouTube channel. I don't think I have the miniatures handy here, but I had one of the few miniatures from 20 years ago. Actually, it was one that I scratch sculpted, and then I took another figure that was sort of similar, and I painted that, and it was called 20 Years of Painting, and that's sitting there on the YouTube channel right now. because I wanted people to see what is it, how do you evolve with your painting over the course of that many years, and just what's available. The materials like those Green Stuff World texture rollers and the Green Stuff World snow effects and everything else, or blood effects. All the stuff that just wasn't there all those years ago when we first started. And that was the Mimes of Moria. That's it. Those are on the blog too. Yes, they are French, and yes, they are street mimes. And that was a Blood Bowl team that I took to the playoffs a couple of times, even as a Goblin team. Francois and Pierre were the two trolls. They had a Chablis in one hand and a cigarette in the other, and they had their jaunty hats and they had their striped shirts. Let's see, randomly. I hope it's plastic because what I've tried to do is aerosol primer. Well, that is where the ye old Badgersteiner res, because we used to just brush this stuff on for years before we ever had an airbrush. Until eventually Ken insisted that you will use an airbrush. I used to, when I was doing 2D art, used to have an airbrush. Yeah, it's pretty wild to think that we're about to celebrate our 20th anniversary of painting miniatures. And people will ask, so do you miss the 2D art? And I think I've got a couple examples here. If I can grab these, 1 second. There's one, and here's another. So one is a base, like that, right there, and then a little mural on a wall right here again. There's some fun little 2D art right there. I can still do 2D art even with miniatures. And I've got some other projects too that have even more elaborate murals that are going to be done. Yeah, let's find us, I think, a couple more highlights on our cloak up here on the top. Again, that's that faded ultramarine right there on the top. There we go. Let's do one over here. Let's find ourselves a couple of more lights over here, like you do. I don't know, I guess I'm also going to have to think of what sort of wild thing I can do for the 1,000 followers. Mike, remind me who you gave the subs to, because I've got to send them that same video that I sent to you, because I think that would be very fun. So I know Jan was definitely one of them. But that's what I want to try and do for folks that subscribe to the to the channel here. Is just every so often I'll basically take one of my video tutorials that's usually for the Patreon page, and I'll shoot that your way because, well, it'll help you with some of these tutorials, because these really are, yes, we're talking and chatting and everything else, but like I said, this thing here, that's how much paint was on it 3 hours ago. Yep, Danny, well, thank you. Thanks for the reminder there. I just don't want to, because the first one I did, I just sent out a group message, but I think there was, three new subs, so I think that's controlled enough that I can remember. So I will try to do that in the next few days. Here, let's get a couple more again, a couple more of those lighter. What do we? I really don't want to do any more highlighting on the freehand of the cloak, but I will get a little more light on the cloak itself here. I mean, here we haven't touched anything on the actual cloak itself. There was the freehand, but all of the original shading on the cloak, last time we messed with that was probably 2 hours and 40 minutes ago. So we'll get back to that a little bit here. Can always smooth some things out. But that little piece of cloak right there, that really, I keep wanting to make that metal for some reason. Again, combination of some of the Reaper clears. Let's see. Basically, whatever email that you use for your Twitch account, that is where the links go. Because that's how I send all of the links to people's Patreon emails too, same way. Now, of course, there are generous folks here who are also patrons, so they've already maybe seen that video or whatever, but it's also just a little bit of a thank you for the people that subscribe. Get some darker tones in here. Can't all just be, again, highlights and midtones. Throwing a couple of dark. Here's another one right there. Again, look at all those striations like we've got here on her. So you can see the green reflected in the armor, especially boom there. Why? Because it's sitting right next to this green cloak. How could that be shiny gold on her foot here? And how could that not be reflecting that green? I mean, how could it not be reflecting that? It has to. Let's see. Oh, oh my goodness. Now there is going to be a discussion, well, not that many hours from now, about a possible multi-stream thing. There's a rumor somewhere on the internets about a possible multi-stream. Not quite sure who that could be, but it might just happen if the universe can survive such a thing. Yeah, let's get a little bit more. Just looking for a touch, and I'm also maybe even giving that a little bit of a texture there too. A little bit of a texture. Not quite sure why, but it seems to be fun. Now look at these different reds right here. Okay, I'm gonna actually do this. So you can see over here we've got orangey red. Now,
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
well, thank you so much for the follow, Jomsio. It's appreciated. Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna go, boom, to our palette, and you can see that there's not a lot of difference in value, but one is more orange and one is definitely more on the pinkish side of things. There we go. Lady B, I can finally put my iron golems to rest tonight. Now some of the Vallejo mud effects. Now I'm going to take some of this brown liner here. Not so much that it is dark, but it's just something other than, say, a bluish color. Looking to do almost like a bit of a horizon line thing there. There's a pigeon cheers. Uh-oh. That means something goes in the jar, and Wappelia Spellbrush has to get what's in that jar. Well, thank you very much. Actually, I'm going to have me some Riesling right now. 1 second. Thank you so much for that. That could, we can get some more Riesling now. Because, man, that stuff is yummy. I love it. But it is, every little bit is appreciated, and every lot, well, that was a lot of bits, so that is a lot appreciated. I can do words, or maybe not. That's a new thing. I haven't actually done that with the palette yet. I'm gonna have to do that more often. Do the black and white thing with the palette. I think that's the first time I ever did that. That is that is a really cool tool right there for the palette. I always thought of it for miniatures. Now, yeah, I'm gonna do this with a. It was the same thing here with the red lady where we've got the purples and the. See, that's a warmer red right there. That's a cooler red. If we take our color out of it, all the shape is still there. Same thing here. You can't even tell what's red or green. The same values. And then as that color intensity comes back, values are the same, shading the same, but one's got like a warm green, and the other one is a whole kaleidoscope of warm and cool reds. Because why not? Why not? This needs more definition right in here. Somehow, that has escaped attention, but now it has caught my attention. We also need, speaking of reflections and stuff, get me some of this sort of muted gold color, and we're going to reflect. I want to make sure you can see it. There we go. It's another thing I like to do is actually have the gold of a sword hilt reflect onto the sword blade, because it kind of should. And that's what's going to happen over here too. Going to get a little more reflected light on the underside of her armored glove here, like you do. Get a little bit of that maiden flesh into there. Can you see that? I do believe you can. There. And then splitting all of these areas into smaller areas, a little bit at a time. What are we doing here? Again, another mold line running through that, so let's see what we can do. I really love the trick with the eyes here, where we did this whole black shape over, or dark shape, reddish brown. But I'm going to cut a little more out of that to get a little more definition. Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's an obsession. Well, freehand object source lighting. But I'm really enjoying the true metallic metals. Actually, I was shown pictures of the new Necron stuff, I guess. And I think that could make for some really fun, true metallic tutorials like that one that I showed you, the Jaime Lannister. And heck, where is... I'm looking for my... Is this the one here? No, that's not the one. I think... Where did you go? Aha. Here it is. So this is a little bit of, again, true metallic metals here, but with object source lighting. And those, I mean, obviously here we're talking old school Necrons right here, but that was all done with the metal medium from Pro Acryl mixed with the transparent Pro Acryl paints to get that. And it looks like color shifting, but it's not color shift paint. It's just taking those transparents and mixing them with the metal medium. Oh, let's see. Although I have hung out and painted with Jason Craze. Oh yeah, haven't seen him since last Adepticon. Actually, did I even get to see him? I think maybe we saw him in the restaurant after the convention was over. I think that was the one time we got to. Well, I did get to see him in the booth. That's right, because I was painting in the Creature Caster booth. Oh yeah, that was one of the reasons why my voice was also gone. As I was trying to scream over everybody in the dealer's room. And that went really well. Heck, that was the reason why I was supposed to do all of those classes this year, was actually to save my voice. That was really the plan behind it. Let's see. Should I will. I'm just going to get a little more dark right in here in this fold. Do just a couple of strands here. Again, I had to file away some of that, so I'm going to have to go back in here sort of and draw in a little bit of that texture that had to be zapped by the files. I think that also, yeah. I need to have these two sides separate from each other, so I'm just, it's a little bit of a semi-glaze there, knocking that down. I am going to get a touch of, see a little bit of a horizon line right there on that, right there on the end of that. We got some reflected light here. We got a little orange there. We got our light there. So now it looks a little bit more round, just as if you were painting like a still life or something of an apple or a sphere of some kind. Getting your reflected light going, because we all love our reflected light, just like that reflected red here is reflecting this. Your metals ain't going to look shiny if they're not reflecting what's around them. That's an unfortunate law of kind of physics right there. Just kind of how it works. If you don't have reflections, you got no shiny. And if you got no shiny, your spaceship doesn't keep flying anymore. And then your show gets canceled after 13 episodes. I do need a bit of a... I see there's a couple of belt notches here that need something. Oh, let's see. I've been here every stream. Oh, that's well, thanks everybody for chatting. Feel free to chat amongst yourselves too. That's something I didn't realize. Well, there's many things going from YouTube to Twitch like this. I just didn't realize that you hang out in people's streams and everybody else also hangs out in those streams, and then you just start talking to each other in each other's stream. I had no clue, because you just don't do that in the YouTube world. That doesn't happen. That has been one of the really cool things about this, is hanging out in some of Mike's streams there and tormenting him a little bit, and hanging out in Drax's stream with all the, and it's really fun because you have groups of people that are just kind of hanging out in different streams. I had absolutely no awareness of that fact. Oh, thank you very much, Mike. It's appreciated, because we had a little conversation. Was it 42? What's the? I can never remember that name. Really fun streamer there. We were just talking about.
So say we all.
That's Squirrely Minis. That is Squirrely Minis doing a subscription thing. We got to do it. Something went in the cup, so we're gonna go. We got a whole bunch. Actually, he's just gonna go like this. He's gonna sit right here like this, and he's just gonna wait for that stuff to land down in the cup right there. It's almost like a drinking game or something like that. There we go.
Say we all.
Here's some more. Come on down, feed me, right there. But thank you so much for all of the. Well, I'm gonna have to send. I'm gonna have a few people to send some links to now.
So say we all.
Oh, and there's Drax. Speaking of Drax. And there we go. Now we've got all kinds of the hype stuff going on. Look at that. We got Mordor. We've got some Mordor. And we got some Rohan. And there's going to be some more Now, speaking of some Mordor and some Rohan,
Hello, little hobbits. Spark my ganja.
we'll be doing some of these as we get a follow from Giant. Thank you so much for the follow. Yeah, we've got lots of stuff we'll
Hello,
be
little
painting.
hobbits. Spark my ganja.
And thank you, Papawood, for the follow. Obviously, Gandalf approves. Gandalf welcomes you. And of course, he appreciates it anytime apparently his ganja is sparked. Who'd have thought? What are those Maiar up to? You never really know. But what we're going to do here is, now right in here, I think you could tell I started to add a little bit of that sky blue in there. Yeah, trying to, everywhere, looking for more reflectivity. Like right in there. There we go. So we've got kind of the pink and the blue working just like we've got here. Again, now this one was done in oils, but the idea is still the same. But thank you, Drax, for the hype. Now, like I said, I'm trying to make more of the emotes and that sort of thing for more dramatic hype sort of stuff that happens. We'll eventually get there. Yeah, there ain't no hype on YouTube. There's just kind of, well, there's not much of that. There are not those kind of fun things on YouTube at all. I think, well, there's the super chat, but that's not really the same thing. That is not the same thing. So look at this. We got our your face reflected in the armor over there. I want to get some more. Again, this is just a blue line, or not blue line. It's a clear blue with some of our white mixed in to get ourselves sort of a sky blue there. And we reach over here for a bit of purple into this. I got some of that purple sitting right there. I want some, boom, over here, over here. Can I get some of that a little bit more reflected down here? Yes, I can. Gotta lighten that up some more. Again, I apologize for all the red all over this because we sort of dropped this right into ye old palette early on. So that's why you're seeing all that craziness. How's about a bit more definition here? There we go. Yeah, that's a little more fun right there. Well, thank you very much. Oh, geez, you got 30 of those auxilia built. That's an impressive day's work right there, day and night's work. I know it is definitely appreciated. Again, well, if you're not already following Mike Disney and Drax, of course, but I'm sure everyone already is, so that's a futile request because you've already done it. Now, what are we going to do over here? Are we going to take some of this same blue and put that right over here? I do think so. Yes, we are. We're going to do that. But then we're going to put a twist on it. We're going to take some of that green and then finish off this bottom portion of it. Always changing those colors around. We got purple there, we got blue, we got green, we got all of it joining hands together. Oh yeah, let's get some of this. Let's get some of this brighter green on the sword while we're at it. I mean, why not? Let's do it. Let's do that. And I need it right over here. So instead of basically trying to highlight that side of the blood groove with just kind of a dead white, what about a little bit of a light green, which also then acts as a contrast to that pink that's over there? Also going to, I think, get one right there. Boom. Always talking about those chain of highlights, right? And it goes, got all the way from the face, down the shoulder, down through the elbow, all the way down to the hand, to the sword hilt, into the sword. This these, that's because your light, it's reflecting on all of this. It's maybe reflecting the sun. If it's reflecting a torch, it would be more of a orangey type thing. That's another highly technical paint term right there, the orangey thing. Oh, let's really juice up this green. Why not? Why not do that? And then we're going to throw it right in here. Again, we got green next to purple. A whole nother type of contrast. And I'm just going to read as gray because when you have green and purple together, you get gray. Only it's a gray that's got a little more interesting touch. And we're going to do that right here. Look at that. We got a nice intense green that's working here against that pink that's over there. Why would we not do that? Now against this red over here, let's see what we can find in the way of green right over here. See, we're kind of smoothing out between these two highlight lines here, giving them some mid-tone, but also something different. We shall do that here too. Again, we're doing that with green. Doing that with green. We're going to do some of that over here. Right up here in this little highlight. Yeah, look at that. So it tones that down a bit, but also gives us a whole nother color like we've got right there in her gauntlet. Some reflected light here. Same thing. Just it's a little suggestion of it right there.